Chapter 12:21. Everyone looked at it. The basic fist technique was very simple. There were a total of 9 moves, but after careful design, the moves could be combined and switched at will, instantly turning into endless moves. If combined with true origin chi, it would explode with endless power. Suddenly, Zhu Xiaoqin's expression changed drastically. His body trembled slightly, and he spat out a mouthful of blood. "Xiaoqin, what's wrong with you?" Everyone's expression changed drastically. "I tried to circulate my ancestral qi. It won't work. I'm suffering from a backlash." Zhu Xiaoqin wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth. His face was pale and twisted. Everyone could not help but grumble inwardly. Sure enough, according to the Tianqing school's technique, their qi would either circulate very slowly or collide randomly. It seemed that those techniques were not suitable for martial artists to circulate their qi. If martial artists wanted to cultivate, they would have to start from scratch. "That Jiang guy is a scammer, fuck you." After realizing that, everyone cursed in their hearts. They were furious and hated Jiang Tian to the core. They had already occupied an advantageous position. They were the young talents and mainstays of Huaxia. It was like a marathon. They were leading by a large margin and were about to reach the finish line and win the championship. However, Jiang Tian suddenly jumped out and announced that the competition was over. Everyone had to return to the starting line and start over. More importantly, Jiang Tian gave them training manuals and stimulants for free. They could not use those things. "By the way, Mingchuan, isn't your father studying the technique of transforming our qi into true origin qi? Why haven't we heard from him yet?" Zhu Xiaoqin turned his head and glared at Ji Mingchuan. He no longer had the respect he had in the past. Instead, he seemed to be questioning him. Back then, Li Wuji and Ji Muxian's original plan was to use the Guardians of Huaxia to weaken Jiang Tian's foundation in Huaxia and replace Jiang Tian's cooperation with the authorities of Huaxia. To a certain extent, they had already succeeded. Now that the Huaxialong formation no longer existed, Yi Zhantian and the other old generals were gradually marginalized. The core of the group was occupied by the Kunlun disciples and the reclusive royalty. Moreover, many young experts of the hidden royal family had also joined the Kunlun sect. In other words, the League of Guardians was the representative of the Kunlun sect in the secular world, or rather, a branch of the sect. However, there was a hidden problem that had never been solved. Even among the reclusive royal family, most of them were martial artists, not cultivators. The Kunlun sect, on the other hand, was a pre-Qin Qi cultivation method. If they wanted to practice the cultivation methods of the Kunlun sect, they needed a suitable conversion method to convert their genuine qi into vital essence. Otherwise, he would have to start all over again. Unfortunately, the Kunlun sect did not have any suitable methods. Until now, they had not completed the conversion. "Old Zhu, I am your eldest senior brother. How dare you question me like this?" Ji Mingchuan was so angry that his whole body trembled. He said coldly, "Conversion method is not something that can be created overnight. However, Lady Wu has already cultivated vital essence after she came back this time. She has reached the 3rd level of the foundation establishment realm. I heard that it was Kang Taichu who taught her the conversion method." "Yi Karen also," Yi Yuhui said gloomily. Hearing this, everyone's face darkened. It turned out that when they were suppressed by Jiang Tian, they were more or less unconvinced. They rebuilt the League of Guardians and thought that with the Kunlun sect as their backing, they did not take Jiang Tian seriously. They even ostracized Lady Wu who supported Jiang Tian. They also looked down on Lady Wu from the bottom of their hearts, thinking that she would be punished for standing on the wrong side. But now, Lady Wu had returned from West Earth and was soaring in the sky, making it impossible for them to catch up. It was a slap in the face. Are we really going to succumb to Kang Taichu and the Tianqing school? Is he really going to become the dictator of this planet? Everyone was sad and unwilling to accept it. Only Ji Mingchuan shook his head and snorted. There are a lot of hidden forces and peerless overlords in this world that Kang Tae-chu doesn't know about. Kang Tae-chu wants to control this world. He's too weak. Hearing this, everyone was surprised. Ing-su frowned and asked, "Senior brother, what do you mean? Is there anyone in this world who can suppress Kang Tae-chu? Don't you know about the famous Qi refinement sects in the pre-Qin dynasty?" Ji Mingchuan let out a faint smile as if victory was already within his grasp. They are not inferior to the Kunlun sect and the Yu family of Great Xia. Like the overlords of the ruins of immortality, they came from the ancient times and are extremely powerful. It's just that they haven't come out of seclusion for various reasons. If they come out of seclusion, how can Kang Tae-chu resist them? Qi refinement warriors of the pre-Qin dynasty. Everyone's expression changed drastically as they exclaimed. Their roots and veins still exist. Kang Tae-chu rashly awakened the spirit energy this time. I'm afraid he's going to kick an iron plate. They were very shocked. The famous pre-Qin families were the Yu family of Great Xia, the Yin family of Yinshang, the Ji family of Great Zhou, and so on. The founder of the Great Xia dynasty, Yu the Great, was rumored to be a Qi refinement warrior from the same era as the founder of the ruins of immortality system. Many people speculated that Yu the Great was a firm defender and a rebel, while the ruins of immortality and the various multidimensional worlds were a fugitive. It was very likely that Yu the Great had experienced the Battle of Immortals and participated in the battle against the extraterrestrial invaders. The battle between Yinshang and the Great Zhou dynasty was the famous investiture war. Countless powerhouses emerged and their magic treasures were earth-shattering and dazzling to the extreme. It could be said that the rulers of these three dynasties were too powerful and could be on par with the Kunlun sect, or even surpass them. Moreover, they had many vassals and existences of the same era. That's right. They will definitely forcefully stop Kang Tae-chu from awakening the spirit energy. This involves many secrets. It's not convenient to tell you now. With his hands behind his back, Ji Mingchuan swept his gaze over the crowd and said arrogantly. Mingchuan, I heard that you are the descendant of the founder of the Great Zhou dynasty, King Wen of Zhou, Ji Chang. Is that true? Yi Yuhui's heart skipped a beat. Her face was full of anticipation as she asked with her beautiful eyes shining. At this point, I won't hide it from you anymore. Ji Mingchuan said proudly with his hands behind his back. I am the descendant of Ji Chang. Many of our Ji family members are in the Kunlun sect because Jiang Taigong, who assisted the Ji family in overthrowing Yinshang, was a disciple of Kunlun. Actually, his words were half true and half false. There was a lot of exaggeration and he seemed to be raising his status. It was true that he was the descendant of Ji Chang. However, the Ji clan had gone through an endless history, and had many descendants. His lineage had long deviated from the main branch of the family and belonged to the side branch. It was very difficult for him to talk to the head of the Ji family. However, when they heard this, they were all envious and excited. They looked at Ji Mingchuan in a new light. Everyone pleaded with expectant faces, Senior Mingchuan, bring us to meet them. Yes, bring us to meet them. Yi Yuhui hugged Ji Mingchuan's arm and acted coquettishly. She rubbed her full chest and her face was full of flattery. Mingchuan, I think we should unite the famous pre-Qin sects. Otherwise, with Kang Tae-chu's fierce, vengeful, mean and ungrateful personality, do you think Kang Tae-chu won't take revenge on us for the little tricks we did to the Long Formation? Even Ing-su, who had always been arrogant, was moved. There was a hint of pleading in his eyes. The Yu family of Great Xia, named Yu the Great, was a famous descendant of the Yellow Emperor. They controlled the prehistoric flood and divided the 9 states. They built the 9 cauldrons at the Tushan Conference and suppressed Huaxia. Legend had it that they existed in the ancient mythological era before the spirit Qi withered. They might have even participated in the shocking Battle of Immortals and experienced the twilight of the gods. The royal family of Yinshang and Great Zhou had launched the famous Battle of Gods. That was the final radiance of the human cultivation civilization on Earth after the spirit Qi withered. It was a glorious era where the stars shone brightly and the sages and mighty figures appeared together. The mighty figures at that time were rumored to be able to turn the world upside down with a raise of their hands. They could move mountains and fill seas with a wave of their hands. They had the power to move mountains and rivers and destroy cities and countries. These famous preaching sects had a very deep foundation. Their descendants had the purest preaching cultivation techniques, as well as many magical treasures and magical items passed down from the ancient mythological era and the investiture of the gods. Their overall strength was unimaginably strong. Reclusive royalty couldn't be compared to them at all. Perhaps even Kang Taechu would pale in comparison and admit defeat. Who wouldn't want to be friends with such a descendant of a preaching sage and such a famous Qi refinement sect? This was extremely attractive to anyone, and it was the most fatal temptation. Okay. After pondering for a moment, Ji Mingchuan nodded and agreed. He put his hands behind his back and said calmly, I heard that the Preaching Research Institute is going to have an unprecedented grand gathering. Even the famous young master of the Yu family of Great Xia, Yu Jingtian, will come. I'll do you a favor and take you to see the world. So, the Preaching Research Institute is the base of the preaching sects in the secular world. Everyone was shocked and came to a sudden realization. The Preaching Research Institute. It was the most mysterious organization that had risen in recent years. Even they didn't know its background. Chapter 12:22. The Preaching Building. It was made up of 5 themed buildings. The tallest one was shaped like the head of a dragon and the other 4 were like the body and tail of a dragon. Overall, it looked like a giant dragon. It was obviously against the rules to build such a magnificent building in such a political and business core area. It also showed that they had a strong background and powerful connections. In fact, the Preaching Building and the Research Institute were the meeting places of the 3 Qi refinement cultivators. Of course, it was also supported by a top political and business force in Huaxia, who controlled the appointment of officials. Night fell. On the rooftop of the building, a luxurious private helicopter slowly circled and landed on the apron. In Huaxia, low-altitude flying was the most strictly controlled. In such a heavily guarded political and business core area, the other party's power and status were obvious. It could be said that only a handful of people in Huaxia dared to do such a thing. They were as rare as phoenix feathers and unicorn horns. The door opened and a young man with long hair tied in a ponytail, wearing a Taoist robe and a silk belt around his waist, walked out of the helicopter. This ancient attire made him look like a jade tree in the wind. In addition to his handsome face and ethereal temperament, he gave people a strange feeling that he was not a man of this world. Behind him followed a string of men and women with extraordinary bearings. The eyes of the men shot out bright lights while their auras were deep and profound. Some had imposing auras that were swift and fierce like a sword, some were steady like a rock that couldn't be shaken, some possessed peerless imperial might and strict laws, and they possessed the aura of someone who had been in a high position for a long time. The women were as beautiful as paintings and carried long swords on their backs. They looked down with disdain, like a peerless swordswoman from a TV series. It was Ji Mingchuan with Ying Su, Zhu Shaochen, and Li Kuangkou. Everyone walked over with a majestic gait, looking around with pride and arrogance. Everyone they met along the way lowered their heads to greet them. Ji Mingchuan. The son of Ji Muxian, the sect master of the Kunlun sect. I heard that he has reached the first level of the foundation establishment and can be considered a mortal deity. Some guards discussed. He's not bad. However, the reclusive royalty around us is far inferior. They are merely martial artists. Immortal realm martial artists can't even withstand a single blow. Another guard said with a look of disdain. If these words were to spread to the outside world, it would definitely cause a huge uproar. Everyone would be endlessly shocked and unable to accept this. Reclusive royalty was no longer what it used to be. It had already been valued and revered by the officials of Huaxia. Whether it was in the secular world or the world of cultivation, it was extremely famous. It was regarded as a pillar of the country and an irreplaceable pillar of the country. However, from the mouth of an ordinary guard, he actually said, a mere martial artist, unable to withstand a single blow. This tone was simply too arrogant. If it weren't for the fact that the pre-Qin Qi refinement sects were in dire need of manpower, even the crowing of chickens and the thievery of dogs would have been put on the table. I'm afraid these small fries won't even have the chance to enter the building. Unexpectedly, not only did the guard who spoke earlier not criticize him, he even agreed with him. They didn't try to lower their voices, as if they didn't mind the crowd hearing them. Are the three Qi refinement clans of the pre-Qin dynasty so domineering? Even a few guards dared to speak so disrespectfully, looking down on everyone. Zhu Shaoqian was extremely indignant. He looked back at the two of them and pushed his energy to suppress them, wanting to teach them a lesson. Shaoqian, don't be rash. Seeing this, Ji Mingchuan was shocked. He wanted to stop him, but he couldn't. It was already too late. With a loud rumble, an invisible wave of air pushed out like a raging wave crashing against the shore. It was at least 10 times stronger than Zhu Shaoqian's aura. In an instant, Zhu Shaoqian was sent flying dozens of meters away like a rag doll and fell to the ground like a dead dog. Zhu Shaoqian only felt that his ribs were almost broken. The blood in his chest surged and he almost spat out a mouthful of blood. But compared to the pain, he was more frightened, shocked, and deeply frustrated in his heart. This guard had the strength of a human immortal, just like him. But the other party's energy was more condensed. Against him, it was like smashing tofu with a hammer. He was also a Qi refinement warrior, which was also a cultivator. A mere guard had the strength of a human immortal, a cultivator. It was obvious how terrifying the pre-Qin dynasty's famous clans were. And he couldn't even defeat one of their guards. Realizing this, Zhu Shaoqian could no longer be arrogant or haughty. She only felt a deep sense of fear and defeat. Oh, young man, why did you fall? Did you step on a banana peel? After the attack, the guard's aura was still extremely stable. It was obvious that he still had energy left. There was disdain and ridicule in his eyes as he asked with a smile. I was careless. Thank you for your concern, brother guard. Zhu Shaoqian got up with a face full of shame. He suppressed his anger and didn't dare to flare up at all. The guard ignored him and looked at Ji Mingchuan with a serious expression. Mingchuan Zongzi, you're the descendant of the Ji family. It's only right for the young master to let you in. But you've already put everyone in a difficult position by bringing these friends. That's right. Thank you for making an exception. Even facing a guard here, Ji Mingchuan didn't dare to be negligent. He cupped his fists and smiled apologetically. Naturally, he was not afraid of these guards, but the masters behind them, those legendary existences, were not people he dared to provoke. Mingchuan comes here often and knows the rules. But I still have to remind these people. The guard nodded slightly. He looked at Ing Su and the others and warned coldly. The standards of this conference are extremely high. Those who come are all important figures. You can go in, but pay attention to your identity. Don't walk around carelessly. Be careful with your words and actions. If you offend the distinguished guests, it will be difficult to explain. It will be difficult for me to explain, and it will be difficult for Mingchuan Zongzi to explain as well. The few disciples of the reclusive royalty were shocked and angry when they heard that. Their faces were red with shame. The guard's warning was full of threat. He almost said that if they dared to mess around, he would break their legs. The reclusive imperial family was now extremely heavily relied on and supported by the government. Even the powerful officials of the border and the old generals on the battlefield had to be courteous when they saw them. They treated them cautiously and did not dare to slight them. But now, a guard of the famous pre-Qin family threatened and warned them. This was the greatest insult and disrespect. At this moment, Ing Su clenched his fists so tightly that they cracked. His eyes were almost spitting fire. He wanted to use his long spear to pierce through the building's door. But in the end, under Ji Mingchuan's warning gaze, he suppressed his anger and bowed deeply with cupped fists. I understand. Among the many disciples of the reclusive royalty, his cultivation was the strongest. Even though he was at the earth immortal realm, he didn't have the confidence to suppress this guard. After all, he was a pre-Qin Chi refinement warrior and he couldn't compare to him at all. Besides, even if he had a slight chance of winning, so what if he won? He just won against a guard. Besides, he might suffer the revenge of the famous pre-Qin Chi refinement warrior families. But if he lost, it would be humiliating. Don't worry, we will abide by the rules. Seeing that among them, Ying-su, who had the strongest cultivation and the most unyielding character, lowered his head, the other members of the royal family didn't dare to resist. They all nodded and promised. At this moment, they were all sad in their hearts. They thought that although they couldn't be on equal terms with the pre-Qin Chi refinement warrior families, they would at least show some respect on the surface. But unexpectedly, the other party simply treated them like ants and didn't even show them the surface courtesy. Even the guard dared to arrogantly warn and threaten them. The guard nodded and waved his hand as if he was driving away flies, indicating that they could enter. Everyone entered the sightseeing elevator. They all had their own thoughts and didn't say a word. The atmosphere was silent and oppressive. Ji Mingchuan looked at the gorgeous street outside and smiled. Ying-su, you can't stand it. Ying-su clenched his fists and didn't answer. Ying-su, don't be angry. This is the truth of the cultivation world. The strong are respected and the weak are ants. Ji Mingchuan encouraged and comforted him. If you can't stand it, if you have the ambition, perform well and get cultivation techniques, resources and dharma treasures from them. I believe that one day, you will catch up and surpass them. Ying-su didn't say a word. No one knew what he was thinking. Don't be discouraged, everyone. Ji Mingchuan glanced at everyone and smiled. This guard is already at the level of a human immortal. It shows how powerful the pre-Qin Chi refinement warriors are. This is a great opportunity for us. Senior brother Mingchuan is right. That's right. Except for Ying-su, everyone turned around and looked excited and expectant. Maybe the pre-Qin Chi refinement warrior families have a technique to convert true Qi into true essence. Then we will have a meteoric rise. Everyone's speculation was not without reason. It was said that whether it was the spells or martial arts that were popular today, they were all simplified versions of the pre-Qin Chi refinement cultivation techniques. All the skills in the world originated from the pre-Qin dynasty. The pre-Qin Chi refinement cultivation techniques were their origin. As the direct descendants of the pre-Qin Chi refinement warriors, Yu Jingtian and the rest most likely had a technique to convert true Qi into true essence. Only Ying-su shook his head gently with a complicated look in his eyes. Did they have to be the dogs of the pre-Qin dynasty in order to obtain these legacies? What was the point of that? Although Kang Taechu was arrogant, he was generous. As long as they were loyal to him, Jiang Tian would treat them as his own. He valued friendship and loyalty. His disciples were indebted to him and he was both a teacher and a friend. He would never put on airs. Everyone had their own thoughts as they followed Ji Mingchuan into a simple and majestic hall filled with an imposing aura. Ji Mingchuan walked up quickly and bowed deeply to a young man in a long robe who was sitting in the middle of the stage. He cupped his fists and said respectfully, Ji Mingchuan of the Kunlun sect greets young master Yu. Everyone looked at him curiously. This young master was tall and burly. He sat on a jade chair with dragons and phoenixes carved on it like a dragon. His back was straight and his aura was majestic like a mountain. His long hair was draped over his shoulders and his eyebrows were slanted. His eyes were sharp and majestic. He gave off a dignified and inviolable feeling. He was chatting cheerfully with a few descendants of the pre-Qin families. As he glanced around, he exuded an awe-inspiring aura. His powerful aura suppressed everyone present. I've long heard that Yu Jingtian has the looks of a mighty leader. Now that I see it, it's true. Everyone realized that this must be the descendant of Emperor Yu of the Great Xia dynasty and the current young master of the Yu family, Yu Jingtian. Chapter 12:23 Even though they were all above the immortal state, they still felt as if they were facing a primordial beast under Yu Jingtian's suppression. Feeling that their opponent's power was unfathomable, they couldn't help but feel a chill down their spines. They bowed slightly and didn't dare to underestimate him. Yu Jingtian was chatting with a lean young man next to him. He didn't look away until the conversation ended. He glanced at Ji Mingchuan and said, "Mingchuan, you're a bit late. We were discussing Kang Teichu's spirit chi recovery, so we're a bit late." Ji Mingchuan looked a bit uneasy. "Have a seat." Yu Jingtian smiled. "Thank you, young master Yu." Ji Mingchuan thanked him and sat down, but Ing Su and the other members of the reclusive royalty could only stand behind him. In fact, although there were many people in the meeting room, most of them were standing solemnly. Only Yu Jingtian and a few descendants of the top sects sat on the stage. Ji Mingchuan and a dozen leaders of the pre-Qin Qi practitioner families sat below the stage. The others didn't even have the right to sit, even if they had the reclusive royalty. Some of the elites on the stage were as unfathomable as the ocean, some were as stable as Mount Tai, and some were ethereal like fairies. Even the weakest among them was more powerful than Ji Mingchuan and had reached the late stage of the foundation establishment level. Yu Jingtian's stern eyes scanned the surroundings as he smiled. "Kang Teichu is spreading cultivation arts to recover spirit qi. What do you think? Let's have a chat. Brother, isn't he a bit too aggressive and reckless?" On Yu Jingtian's left side, a beautiful and elegant lady with an otherworldly temperament spoke up with a cold sneer. When the ancient grand cultivators were invaded by the overlords from other planets, they came up with the bunker plan and set up the deity trap array. The bunker plan was essentially a declaration of peace to the entire universe. It told the alien races that Earth's spirit chi was exhausted and the deity trap array was like a cage that enveloped Earth. They couldn't reach the third level of the foundation establishment level and couldn't form a strong cultivation civilization. They couldn't pose a threat to the alien races and civilizations. Therefore, they wouldn't attack Earth. The genius disciple of the Yu clan, Yu Fenghua. Ji Mingchuan looked at this woman with deep admiration in his eyes. She was the only woman sitting on the stage. Although she was beautiful and otherworldly, she was extremely powerful and had a meticulous mind. She was extremely resourceful. She was known as the wise one among the famous Qi practitioners of the pre-Qin dynasty. The Yu family swept through many ancient tribes and suppressed many true godlike mighty sages, establishing the Great Xia Empire. After a long period of time, they had spread their branches and leaves. They were full of talents and had countless outstanding disciples. However, Yu Jingtian treated her as his right-hand woman. Clearly, she was not an ordinary woman. Yu Fenghua's eyes glinted with wisdom as he said coldly, "However, once Kang Teichu does that, it will be tantamount to destroying the bunker plan. Earth will be overflowing with spiritual energy, and the confinement of heaven and earth will be torn apart. I'm afraid that many powerful civilizations in the depths of the universe will come to Earth to plunder and start a war." Once she said that, many disciples of the reclusive royalty looked at this woman in shock and felt that they were inferior. They listened even more attentively. The topic they were talking about was completely different from what they used to talk about: cultivation, status and power, and fighting for control of the cultivation world in Huaxia. Instead, it involved ancient secrets, the power struggle of the pre-Qin dynasty, the threat of space, the development of human civilization and the ultimate fate of mankind. "Sister, you're right. Kang Teichu might be powerful and talented, but he's short-sighted and ignorant. He's also arrogant and self-opinionated. His knowledge isn't as good as a woman's. How regrettable." Yu Jingtian nodded slightly. He smiled bitterly and sighed regretfully. Fenghua was a good girl. She hit the nail on the head. Kang Teichu was very smart and meticulous. Especially the large-scale public cultivation method, it was even more earth-shattering. Great talent and bold vision. His breadth of mind and magnanimity were enough to stand shoulder to shoulder with the ancient paragons. However, he didn't think of the real use of the deity trap array and the confinement of heaven and earth. After all, he was a mortal and knew nothing about the disaster of the ancient times, let alone the terror of the cosmic races. Yu Jingtian continued. In fact, the Qi refinement clans of the pre-Qin dynasty all have spirit Qi revival seeds and know how to revive spirit Qi. However, for tens of thousands of years, we've been holding back and remaining nameless. Everyone was shocked when they heard that. Their faces turned pale with fright as they exclaimed, so the Yu family also has a spiritual energy recovery seed. Yu Jingtian smiled and said calmly, that's right. Almost every family of the pre-Qin dynasty has one or a few seeds. If they work together, they'll be able to revive spirit Qi. Then why don't they revive spirit Qi? Zhu Shaochen was puzzled and asked boldly. I heard that the ancient cultivators rested their heads on mountains and carried the moon on their shoulders. With a wave of their hands, they created rivers and moved mountains and seas. They lived for thousands of years and walked the earth like real gods. As long as spirit Qi revives, we'll have a chance to reach that level too, right? Being weak and ignorant is not an obstacle to survival. Arrogance is. Yu Jingtian's face turned serious. He scanned the crowd and said coldly, if spirit Qi revives, we'll be powerful. We'll even be able to ascend to the heavens and leave Earth for the depths of the universe. But at the same time, it'll also wake up the super civilizations and attack our lovely planet. There are still more than 6 billion creatures on this planet. Are we going to watch them die for our own interests and for the sake of strengthening ourselves? Everyone looked at Yu Jingtian in a new light. They were full of admiration for him. What kind of noble character and unquestionable integrity was this? What kind of selflessness was this? What kind of bodhisattva was this? Ying Su frowned and asked, but Kang Te-Chu said that after spirit Qi revives, we'll be able to resist the invasion of the dimensional world. You must be Ying Su, right? The thin young man on the right of Yu Jingtian on the stage spoke. This man was wearing a Taoist robe with 8 trigrams. He held a horsetail whisk and carried a long sword on his back. His face was thin and his temperament was otherworldly. He looked like an ancient scholar who had traveled through time. Ji Mingchuan raised his right hand and pointed at the young man in a Taoist robe on the stage. This is the descendant of Jiang Zia, the first prime minister who helped Ji Chang and Ji Fa establish the great Zhou dynasty. He's the young master of the Jiang family, Jiang Feibai. He's the descendant of Jiang Zia. When everyone heard this, their hearts involuntarily trembled violently, feeling deep veneration. Jiang Zia was one of the most talented and eye-catching figures in the investiture of the Gods' War. Not only was he proficient in military strategy, but he also controlled the investiture of the gods. He had the Holy Whip, the Apricot Flag, and many other Dharma treasures. His Dharma spells were powerful and invincible. He assisted King Wen of Zhou and King Wu of Zhou to overthrow the Shang dynasty. Later on, his status in the great Zhou dynasty was even higher than the 3 dukes and 9 uncles. That's right, it's me. Please enlighten me, young Master Jiang. When Ying Su heard this, he did not dare to be negligent. His expression became slightly stern as he solemnly stood up and cupped his fists. Jiang Feibai smiled and said, do you know the origin of the ruins of immortality? The ruins of immortality and the dimensional worlds originated from the ancient earth. Everyone was shocked and listened carefully. Back then, the invaders from the outer space were really from the divine-level civilization. Even the ancient grand cultivators were no match for them. They were defeated and helpless. Jiang Feibai nodded and said, there were also some divine-level civilizations. At that time, there were also differences within the living beings on Earth. They weren't completely united. There were those who surrendered and those who surrendered. They betrayed the ancient Earth and welcomed the arrival of a super civilization. They were just small fries, not worth mentioning. But among the grand cultivators who were descendants of the ancient Earth civilization, there were those who resisted and those who escaped. The resistance was led by Emperor Yu of the Great Xia. In order to protect the human civilization, they defended the Earth and fought bloody battles. In the end, all of them died in battle. The escape was led by Emperor Zhongli of the Qing dynasty. He was the one who broke the ancient earth apart and pushed it into the depths of the universe. Some of it even reached the southern gate. But fundamentally, Emperor Zhongli and Emperor Yu of the Great Xia were both descendants of the Yellow Emperor. They were connected by blood and fought side by side to protect the roots of the ancient Earth civilization. It's just that they chose different paths. In other words, the ruins of immortality and the dimensional worlds were all friends of the Earth. They came from the same source, the mother planet of life. Jiang Feibai said in a deep voice. However, Jiang Taichu, for his own selfish interests, in order to improve his cultivation, in order to become an immortal or a god, he took the initiative to attack and provoke the various dimensional worlds, repeatedly stirring up a storm of blood and arousing the hostility of the ruins of immortality. If it weren't for Kang Taichu, we could have waited for the time when the spirit Qi was more mature and welcomed the descendants of Emperor Sheng and the wanderers of the ruins of immortality back. They could have planted the foundation of the earth with us. We could have worked together and built the earth into a bright and glorious cultivation planet. He shook his head and sighed with regret. But everything was over when Kang Taichu came. I see. The ruins of immortality was created by an ancient grand cultivator called Emperor Zhongli. He was a close comrade of the ancestor of the Yu family. The ruins of immortality were our friends. Kang Taichu is completely reckless. He single-handedly brought the earth to eternal damnation and turned his friends into enemies. He's a scourge. No one knew that the ruins of immortality had changed dramatically and became the world of the Emperor of Immortality. After hearing this, their worldview was refreshed. They had a whole new level of respect for Yu Jingtian, and they despised Jiang Tian. Their wariness towards the experts from the ruins of immortality had also disappeared. Compared to Yu Jingtian, Kang Taichu's level was too low and he couldn't see the big picture. For his own benefit, he caused a lot of bloodshed and broke the peace between the ruins of immortality and Earth. He was pushing the entire human race into a fire pit. Now that he knew that he had angered the ruins of immortality and knew how powerful the ruins of immortality were, he was scared and desperate. He blindly revived the spirit Qi and formed a resistance alliance. He wanted the heroes to sign the alliance contract and fight side by side with him. He kept saying that he was thinking for the future of the Earth and the human civilization. In fact, he was just dragging the entire world down with him. He was despicable and selfish to the extreme. Chapter 12:24. For the peace of Earth and the fate of mankind, the Yu family is willing to let the spirit Qi dry up and degenerate. Yu Fenghua was full of arrogance. Her voice was full of disdain. He's not from a prestigious clan in the pre-Qin dynasty, nor is he from a Qi practitioner clan, nor is he from a hidden royal family. He's not even a descendant of a noble. He's just a lowly commoner, a nobody in the martial world. He's just a mortal. What right does he have to start a bloody storm? What right does he have to revive the spirit Qi? What right does he have to form a myth alliance? What right does he have to be on an equal footing with us? Hearing this, everyone nodded in agreement. Now Kang Taichu is not only reviving the spirit Qi and causing the world to change, but also forcing many forces to sign contracts and form a myth alliance to fight against the ruins of immortality. Jiang Feibai smiled bitterly. Isn't it obvious that he wants to fight the ruins of immortality to the end? How can the ruins of immortality let Kang Taichu go? How can the world of Earth be peaceful? When everyone heard this, they couldn't help but be filled with righteous indignation. No. We can't let Kang Taichu do as he pleases. After all, he's an ordinary person. He's not a descendant of the pre-Qin dynasty. He's short-sighted and doesn't understand history. How can the fate of Earth be in his hands? This person is stubborn and self-opinionated. He's cruel and narrow-minded. He's not a virtuous person. He can't be in a high position. He's not qualified to control the myth alliance. He's the one who insisted on reviving the spiritual energy. Did he ask for our opinion before coming here? Everyone was discussing with righteous indignation. Even if he wants to revive the spirit chi, there must be an explanation as to who will be in charge of the world after the revival of the spirit chi. But his current goal is clearly to lead the recovery of spiritual power to command the world and dominate the world. At this time, a young man in black on the stage with a gloomy face and cold eyes said with a disdainful smile, "Everyone is right. Kang Tae-chu is just a mortal from the secular world. His background is lowly, and he is nothing more than a Jianghu bumpkin. What right does he have to command the world? What right does he have to command the various forces and sects of the pre-Qin dynasty?" His eyes were cold like a peerless heavenly sword that had been unsheathed. His domineering aura was monstrous and sharp. If he wants us to submit to him, he has to have the ability and qualifications to do so. In any case, we Yin Ruins are the first to disagree with Kang Tae-chu's way of doing things. If Kang Tae-chu wants to be the boss, or anyone else wants to be the boss, they'll have to beat me first. This man was Yin Chaoga. He was a descendant of Xian of the Shang dynasty, the descendant of the infamous King Zhou of the Shang dynasty, and the young master of the current Yin family. The entire Yin Ruins was their family's power. Upon hearing these words, a sharp glint flashed across Yu Jingtian's eyes. However, he quickly regained his composure and smiled without saying a word. It was as if he did not hear anything. A strange look appeared on everyone's face, but no one spoke. The Yu family of the Great Xia is naturally the leader of the pre-Qin Qi cultivation families. Chaoga, you don't have any objections, do you? After a while, another young man spoke. It was Ji Mai, the descendant of Ji Chang of the Great Zhou dynasty, and also Ji Mingchuan's distant cousin. Ji Mai was handsome and had a graceful temperament. He had the bearing of an emperor. His smile was like a needle hidden in silk floss. We're holding this meeting to discuss how to deal with Kang Tae-chu. If we fight among ourselves, wouldn't it be painful for those close to us and happy for the enemy? Just as the legends say, the pre-Qin Qi cultivation families are not as united as one piece. Below the stage, Ji Mingchuan lowered his head slightly and a flash of understanding flashed across his eyes. The Ji family and Jiang family of the Great Zhou dynasty supported the Yu family of the Great Xia, but it seemed that the pre-Qin Qi cultivation families of the Shang dynasty were fighting for power. Yin Chaoga sipped his tea and smiled coldly. He did not express his opinion and said with both carrot and stick. Young Master Yu has no intention of reviving spiritual energy and dominating this planet. There's no need for me to fight with him. Let's kill Kang Tae-chu first. Killing Kang Tae-chu is easier said than done. At this moment, below the stage, Yi Yuhui mustered up her courage and said. I heard that he's already surpassed the heavenly immortal realm. He's even stronger than the previous leader of our sect, Li Wuji. That's right. Kang Tae-chu is indeed powerful and talented. However, under the suppression of the immortal trap Great Formation, how can he surpass Foundation Establishment Level 3? Yin Chaoga glanced at Yi Yuhui's ample bosom and a hint of undetectable greed appeared on his face. Then, without waiting for her to speak, he curled his lips in disdain and sneered. As for the videos they released, we think they're just bluffing with special effects. They're just trying to intimidate us and make us submit to them. Because once he surpasses Foundation Establishment Level 3, the Immortal Trap Great Formation will definitely shake and send down a calamity. However, according to our observation, the Immortal Trap Great Formation has never been touched by any overlords. His combat strength might surpass Foundation Establishment Level 3, but his cultivation level is definitely not higher. Cultivation level is the most important factor that affects combat strength. In comparison, his combat strength is only at the mid-stage of the Foundation Establishment level. With this kind of strength, I can slap him to death with one hand. Hearing this, everyone was shocked and couldn't believe it. Killing a heavenly immortal with one hand? How powerful was Yin Chaoga? How domineering! Ever since the Immortal Trap Great Formation was set up, no one has surpassed the heavenly immortal realm in the past thousands of years. No one has been able to shake the Great Formation. No matter how strong Kang Tae-chu is, can he be stronger than the ancient mighty pre-Qin sage? Beside him, Yu Fenghua and the others also sneered and laughed disdainfully. The reason why Kang Taechu can be so domineering is because we saw him attacking the cultivation world of other countries, the Holy See, and the Brahmin orthodoxies. It's beneficial to the country and the people, so we turned a blind eye and let him do whatever he wants. If we suppress him, anyone on the stage can kill him as easily as killing a chicken. In fact, Yu Jingtian and the others were not stupid. They had asked Li Wuji about Kang Taechu's real background. However, Li Wuji had already supported Jiang Tian wholeheartedly. How could he reveal it? Besides, he also had his own plans in mind. He wanted to use Jiang Tian to suppress the pre-Qin Qi practitioners and make the Kunlun sect the most powerful Qi practitioners in the pre-Qin Qi practitioners. How could the pre-Qin Qi practitioners not rise to the occasion? Therefore, he gave a vague and perfunctory answer before he announced that he was going into closed-door cultivation. As a result, the pre-Qin sects always thought that Jiang Tian's strength was on par with Li Wuji's. What? How powerful are you exactly? However, the words of the pre-Qin disciple immediately caused everyone to be extremely shocked. Their expressions changed drastically as they cried out in surprise. Yi Yuhui puffed out her full chest and looked at Yin Chaoge with admiration. Could it be that young Master Yin's cultivation has surpassed level 3 of foundation establishment? So what if he's at the 3rd level of foundation establishment? Yin Chaoge was full of arrogance and sneered. The deity trapping array and the confinement of heaven and earth are just a declaration of peace. But which civilization would cut off its roots for peace? Yin Chaoge said proudly, "You're right." When Emperor Sheng left the ancient earth, he gave Emperor Yu a way to break the deity trapping array, and the Yu family also taught it to the pre-Qin Qi practitioners. In other words, Emperor Sheng sees us as the root of the cultivation civilization on earth. We won't be restricted by the confinement of heaven and earth at all. As long as we have enough resources and spirit qi, we can advance at any time. Hearing this, everyone was shocked again. They couldn't believe it. Have all of you reached the mid-stage, late stage, or even the golden core level? Everyone exclaimed like a cat whose tail had been stepped on. Their eyes were full of admiration and envy. If spirit qi is really restored, our cultivation can be even higher. Yin Chaoge acted mysteriously and did not comment. Instead, he smiled proudly and said, "We're already limited by the lack of spirit qi. Otherwise, the nascent soul level, soul formation level, Tao reunion level and void return level are just around the corner." The reason why it was called the Age of Doom was because of the planet destruction and the deity trapping array. On the earth, spirit qi was withered and dried up. Without the nourishment of spirit qi, cultivators were like trees without roots and water without a source. Every breakthrough was extremely difficult. The deity trapping array imprisoned and monitored thousands of miles in the deep void. Once a cultivator reached the 3rd level of the foundation establishment level, the network would send a disaster to destroy their cultivation or kill them. The Qi refinement cultivators of the pre-Qin dynasty were connected to the ancient mythological era. Yu the Great was a transitional figure between the ancient mythological era and the pre-Qin dynasty. He had connections with the Shang Emperor, Zhongli, and the ancient mighty figures even before that. He obtained the method to break the heaven and earth confinement, so that the Qi refinement cultivators of the pre-Qin dynasty wouldn't be restricted by the deity trapping array. However, they couldn't stop the depletion of spirit qi. They were also limited. Then, everyone started to speak about the current situation. Jiang Feibai spoke unceasingly and endlessly, giving pointers about everything. Ji Mai occasionally said something, but he was always right. Yin Chaoge's perspective was often more realistic. It was very practical and straightforward. Most of the time, Yu Jingtian didn't say anything. He just listened with a smile. But when he spoke, he was always on point. His insight and vision were far better than everyone else. At this time, the reclusive royalty below the stage, except for Ing Su, had been completely convinced. It was as if they had seen their idol. In the end, Yu Jingtian's eyes were cold and he made the final decision. Kang Taechu is ambitious. He revived Spirit Qi and formed the mythological alliance. He obviously wants to be alone and dominate this blue planet. I don't agree with this. This man is mean, ruthless, and fierce. He killed the innocent and set off a bloody storm. He's really the jinx of Earth. We can support whoever becomes the leader, but not Kang Tae-chu. He dared to send a message and threaten me. Many forces in the secular world also listened to him. It seems that the Qi refinement cultivators of the pre-Qin dynasty have been too low-key. So much so that the world has forgotten about our existence. He was like a majestic emperor. He glanced at everyone and made the final decision. Fine, it's time for us to do something. Now, I'll announce to the world that the Qi refinement cultivators of the pre-Qin dynasty will come out of seclusion and stop Kang Tae-chu from reviving Spirit Qi. If he doesn't stop his actions, we can only wipe him and the Tianqing school off the face of the earth. Let's vote. Who agrees and who disagrees? Chapter 12:25. Me too. Yu Fenghua nodded. Me too. Ji Mai agreed. Me too. Yin Chaoga nodded. For a time, many disciples of the pre-Qin dynasty raised their hands in support. Their attitude was unprecedentedly unanimous. They agreed that the pre-Qin clans should suppress Jiang Tian and Tianqing school, stop the revival of Spirit Qi, and resist the myth alliance. Good. We have to settle our internal problems first. Let's start with Hua Xia. Yu Jingtian said. We'll give Jiang Taichu 3 days to remove all the spirit-guiding formations from the famous mountains and rivers of Huaxia. If he refuses, we'll brutally suppress him. We'll kill every one of Jiang Taichu's men we see. We'll stop until Kang Taechu admits defeat. Hiss. Hearing this, everyone was shocked and sucked in a breath of cold air. No matter how powerful Kang Taechu was, how could he compare to the pre-Qin clans? How could they withstand the siege of these behemoths? These clans were only second to the ancient deities and grand cultivators. They had the purest Qi refinement arts and were not affected by the deity entrapment array. They also had endless resources. The 9 cauldrons, the deity whipping whip, the deity restraining rope, and many other powerful Dharma treasures. Poor Kang Taechu, hearing this, Yu Fenghua lowered her head and sighed mockingly. That was Yu Jingtian's dominance. In everyone's eyes, Yu Jingtian had the pre-Qin and primordial treasures and could compete with the entire ruins of immortality. Yu Jingtian's words had the power to turn the world upside down. Many of the pre-Qin family clans, hidden monsters, and demons all obeyed his command. Once he showed up, not only Kang Taechu, but also all the superpowers on this planet would not be able to stop him. The next morning, the Pre-Qin Research Institute immediately posted a declaration of war on their official website, strongly opposing Kang Taechu's revival of Spirit Qi. They also launched a global poll. They refuted Jiang Tian's proposal for the revival of spiritual aura one by one and deciphered the truth of the ruins of immortality and the world cage. They claimed that Jiang Tian's actions were completely for his own personal gain, and that he would plunge Earth into an irrecoverable situation. This was equivalent to an official announcement. Soon, this news was spread on various dimensional world forums and cultivator forums. Suddenly, like a stone that caused 1,000 ripples, it set off a huge uproar all over the world. Important people from the secular world and the cultivation world all spoke about this incident. However, with the release of this information and the fanning of many forces, a portion of the public began to stand on the side of the famous pre-Qin Qi practitioners. Kang Taechu is indeed too brutal. He slaughtered people all over the world and even started a local war to make a fortune. I don't think he's qualified to be the chairman of the mythological alliance. One philanthropist claimed in an interview. It turns out that the Spirit Qi revival will not only give birth to many dire beasts, but it will also tear up Earth's declaration of peace to the universe. I firmly oppose the Spirit Qi revival. An internet celebrity finished playing a game in an internet cafe, took out her mobile phone, and posted on Weibo to criticize Jiang Tian. She even incited all netizens to oppose the Spirit Qi revival. As long as 300,000 netizens signed, she would take off her clothes live. The cute girl, who had been slapped in the face by Jiang Tian during the live broadcast ceremony, had changed her appearance and made a comeback. Kang Tae-chu, surrender. The fate of mankind can't be in your hands. You're just an ordinary person. You're no match for the Preaching heroes at all. The internet celebrity Wanwan also spoke on the internet, encouraging fans to oppose Jiang Tian. I think the famous Preaching clans are too naive. In the face of all kinds of comments, Zhao Xueqing publicly shouted in an interview with BBC with her big belly. Our martyrs once said that if we seek unity through struggle, we will survive as a team. If we seek unity through compromise, we will perish as a team. Earth is weak. If we give up the spirit chi revival, it's like a soldier giving up his gun and losing without a fight. However, the enemy has a gun in his hand. Whether he kills you or not depends entirely on his mood. How can humans not become stronger just to avoid being beaten? How can they remain weak and become lambs waiting to be slaughtered? In fact, only when you are strong can you avoid being beaten. This is the incantation passed down by our ancestors, the Iron Law. Kang Tae-chu must withdraw and destroy all the Spirit Chi Revival arrays and hand over the Spirit Chi Revival seeds. Otherwise, we will kill him without mercy. The safety of this blue planet can't be in the hands of a war maniac who kills and steals at every turn. Again, we'll only give you 3 days. After 3 days, the war will break out. The famous Preaching clans will brazenly take action and wipe out Tianqing school. Led by Yu Jingtian, a descendant of the Great Xia dynasty, the famous Preaching clans held a press conference and shouted at Jiang Tian through hundreds of media outlets around the world. After that, the famous Yinsheng clan, the Ji clan, and the Jiang clan of Dezhou all expressed their support for Yu Jingtian and declared war on Kang Tae-chu and Tianqing school. Their words were strong and their attitudes were domineering. Moreover, the list of people participating in the war was still increasing. Many Preaching Chi refinement clans, demons, ghosts, and heretical cultivators joined the war to support Yu Jingtian and the Preaching Research Institute. Everyone was shocked and couldn't believe their eyes. Tianqing School had released the documentary. The strength of Jiang Tian and Tianqing School was obvious to everyone. Who else could challenge them? The Preaching Research Institute also began to release information about them. As a deterrent, they released information about the ruins of immortality to seek the support of the secular world. Suddenly, countless people were shocked. It turned out that the ancient mythological era was not as simple as a myth and legend. It really existed. It turned out that the war of investiture of the gods in the Preaching dynasty really happened. It turned out that before the advent of modern technology, mankind was a completely different civilization. It was a brilliant cultivation planet. Changbai Mountain, near Yongling. The mountains were continuous and green. The top of one of the mountains was bare as if it had been flattened by a peerless heavenly sword. On the top of the mountain, there was a lake with a radius of 10 miles, which made people exclaim in admiration. This was the famous Dragon Lake. Yongling was known as the Dragon Vein of the Qing dynasty. The Dragon Lake was said to be the eye of Yongling's feng shui. Many mountains in Yongling gathered in the Dragon Lake, and the Dragon Lake was the dragon pearl protected by the Dragon Vein. It was said that this place was connected to the East Sea Dragon Palace, and there was a true dragon in it. It was this true dragon that helped Huang Taiji defeat the Ming dynasty and establish the Qing dynasty. In recent years, there were even people who took pictures of huge flood dragons swimming under the water, which spread like wildfire. Some people believed it to be true, but most people just treated it as fake news that was commonly seen on the internet and did not say a word. Around the Dragon Lake, there was a birch forest. The clear water reflected the blue sky and white clouds. The mountain breeze was cool, and it became a good place to relax. The beginning of summer had arrived. Tourists were weaving together to enjoy the scenery and avoid the heat. On this day, among the tourists, a tall and handsome middle-aged man suddenly jumped down from the cliff into the lake. Ah! Is he going to commit suicide? Someone in the crowd exclaimed. Quick, take a picture. If we post it on Weibo, it will definitely be a hot topic. Someone took out his phone and started to take pictures. Unexpectedly, when the middle-aged man was 100 meters above the water, he floated there as if there were invisible stairs under his feet. A martial artist. A mutant. Countless tourists by the lake widened their eyes. They were shocked and excited. Some took pictures, videos, and some even started a live broadcast. Since the invasion of West Earth, the existence of martial artists, cultivators, mutants, and alien races was no longer a secret. Many forums appeared on the internet. Many people found that the world they lived in was so exciting for the first time. Ignoring the shocked eyes around him, Zhao Yuankuan cupped his fists and shouted, Zhao Yuankuan, the first-generation disciple of Kang Te-Chu, the sect master of Tianqing School, is here to see the Demon King of the Dragon Lake for the sake of the recovery of spirit qi. Not even Kang Te-Chu is qualified to be on the same level as the Demon King. You're just his disciple. How dare you want to see my master? Then, a man rose from the lake, but there was no trace of water on him. Apparently, he was protected by a righteous qi. The middle-aged man was wearing a long robe and carrying a golden dragon blade on his back. He was also an earth-level deity and was not much weaker than Zhao Yuankuan. He said coldly, I'm Zhang Tianya, the disciple of the Demon King. My master is in seclusion and can't come out. If you have something to say, just tell me and I'll report it to him. He was trying to intimidate him. He didn't even want to see him. How arrogant. Zhao Yuankuan's eyes were cold and murderous, but he couldn't help but remember what Jiang Tian said before the disciples set off. Only when these forces are more arrogant, domineering, and exposed will we have more reasons to quell the chaos. People's hearts are more beneficial to us. This is to lure the enemy in. Before we take action, we will show weakness in battle and take the offensive in public opinion. Therefore, Zhao Yuankuan calmed down, hid his murderous intent, and cupped his fists respectfully. He said respectfully, my master, Kang Te-Chu, and Tianqing School want to join forces with the Demon King to recover spirit qi and protect the creatures on Earth. We respectfully invite the Demon King of the Dragon Lake to join the Myth Alliance and sign an agreement to resist the ruins of immortality and protect the civilization on Earth. Seeing Zhao Yuankuan so respectful, Zhang Tianya became even more arrogant and domineering. He sneered and said, the recovery of spirit qi has nothing to do with us demons. If you want to recover spirit qi, go ahead. If you don't do it. We demons are free and don't interfere with the human race. Why should we listen to Kang Te-Chu and Tianqing School? Who does Kang Te-Chu think he is? How dare he order the true dragons around? The Demon King was a dragon, but that didn't stop him from raising his status. I'm afraid your master has to sign this agreement. This is for the sake of the overall situation of the civilization on Earth. If he doesn't sign it, I'm afraid it will cause some unnecessary misunderstandings. Zhao Yuankuan said with a hidden agenda. Get out of my way. Zhang Tianya was furious and threw a punch at Zhao Yuankuan. Zhao Yuankuan flew dozens of meters away, as if he had been hit by the wind. Seeing this, Zhang Tianya was even more smug. He stood with his hands on his hips and said arrogantly, in 3 days, ask Kang Te-Chu to apologize in front of our Demon King and give up the position of the leader of the Myth Alliance. Otherwise. He smiled maliciously. Otherwise what? Zhao Yuankuan asked. Otherwise? Humph. My bewitching demon clan will definitely come out of the mountains. First, we will kill 1 million people as sacrifices to our flag. Then, we will kill Jiang Taichu to establish our might. I'll let you know how powerful I am. All of a sudden, the water in the pool trembled, setting off towering white waves. A loud dragon's roar came from the dragon's cave deep underground. Chapter 12:26. His voice was like rolling thunder, shaking everyone's hearts and spreading for 100 miles. The mountains shook and the earth trembled. Everyone felt a sharp pain in their eardrums and their hearts were about to explode. They couldn't even stand still. Who does Kang Tae-chu think he is? He hasn't even triggered the deity trap array and gone through the deity trap tribulation. How dare he order me around? He's courting death. It was the flood dragon spirit in the dragon pond of Changbai Mountain that was said to have a lifespan of 2,000 years and was known as the Demon Emperor. Everyone was in an uproar after hearing what he said. This evil man is so fierce. He wants to kill 100,000 people in one breath. That's terrifying. We should use nuclear weapons to blow these evil men into ashes. Many people trembled and were angry. Those who aren't of our kind must have a different mind. Zhao Yuankuan knew he had achieved his goal, so he rose into the air and said, "I'll give you 3 days to think about it. If you don't, the Tianqing school will wash your dragon lake with blood and skin you alive." Ha, how dare you talk nonsense. In fact, you're just a clown. You can't withstand a single blow. Zhang Tianya sneered with disdain in his eyes. Almost at the same time. In the cloudy land of Mount Qingcheng, a giant white python 100 feet long rose into the air, which shocked many tourists and explorers. She turned into a woman in a palace dress. Her clothes were fluttering in the wind and she looked peerless. She spoke human language and called herself Bai Sujuan, the willow deity. Many witnesses exclaimed and speculated that this woman might be the prototype of Bai Sujuan in the legend of the white snake. The snake demon stood in the air and looked down at the people under the crowd and many cameras. She looked at the people and said in a sweet voice, "I'm sorry, but I'm sorry." She said with a charming voice, "The demons and humans don't interfere with each other. If Kang Tae-chu insists, the white snake cave of Mount Qingcheng can order all the snakes and pythons in the world to attack the city. There are countless of them. Can Kang Tae-chu deal with them?" When these words were spoken, everyone felt their scalps go numb. This would become a great disaster that would be difficult to deal with. Even if it were ordinary poisonous snakes, there would be thousands upon thousands of them. If they appeared in a densely populated area, how serious would the casualties be? At the same time, in Sunset Mountain, Bai Xian, a hedgehog spirit, appeared and protested to Jiang Tian. In Xing and Ridge, Yellow Immortal Yellow Skin also came out of seclusion in the form of an old man, claiming that he wanted to fight Jiang Tian to the end. Mang Mountain. The sun shone brightly. However, within the dense forest, there were gusts of chilly wind. Ghostly chi filled the air, and countless green phosphorescent flames floated about. It made one's hair stand on end, and it was extremely terrifying. The deeper they went into the forest, the denser it became. Vines grew everywhere, and thistles and thorns covered the ground. One could faintly see a mound in front of them, and a dense yin qi lingered in the air. "I am the disciple of the Taichu sect's master, the Hall Master of Soul Hall, Hong Yi. I am here to meet the legendary Ghost King Mang." Taoist Master Redleaf held the feng shui compass in his hand. Behind him was a female reporter from the BBC. She carried a camera and started a live broadcast. Crack! A few bones were crushed under his feet. Only then did Adept Redleaf see a small mound that had been dug up. Beside the mound were many pieces of decaying wood, rotten iron shovels, white skeletons, and the bones of many birds and beasts. Among them were scattered many. At the bottom of the mound, there was a big black hole that led straight to the ground. Weeds and trees grew around it. Looking at the scene, not only was the tomb ancient, but the tomb robbers were also ancient. Taoist Master Redleaf murmured, "What a strong yin qi. This should be where the Ghost King is." Some white bones were buried deep in the ground, and the exposed parts were rotten. They looked like they had been there for a long time, which made them even more terrifying. Taoist Master Redleaf was one of the top spellcasters in Singapore. He liked to collect artifacts and knew many gravediggers. However, this small mound was not eye-catching, but it was a forbidden area for many gravediggers. It was extremely ferocious, and there were huge dumplings there. It was said that since the Ming dynasty, there were at least 100 tomb robbers, mountain-moving Taoists, and Xialing warriors who died here. None of them returned alive. After a long time, no one dared to come here anymore. On the other hand, the BBC reporter who had been paying attention to the recovery of spiritual qi was fearless. She came here for an exclusive report. However, Taoist Master Redleaf was skilled and bold. He was not afraid of this. He lit a pot of incense and used the 18 ghost-controlling techniques that Jiang Tian had taught him. He made hand seals and chanted to summon ghosts. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm a reporter from the BBC. Today, I've come to the mysterious Mount Mang in Huaxia with the experts of Tianqing School. It's rumored that ghosts roam this place. Today, we'll unveil the mystery. The female reporter said excitedly to the camera. A moment later. Boom! There was a loud noise. The ground trembled as if an earth dragon was rolling. The entrance of the cave split open into a huge gully that expanded several times. The female reporter was so scared that she rolled on the ground. The camera shook violently. A chilly wind whistled in the gully, and a ghastly yin qi swept across like a raging wave. Then, the ghostly whispers came like a tide, and the wisps surged. A loud roar was heard, as if a gong was sounding. Who's making noise outside the Ghost King's mansion? Oh my God! Ghosts come out in broad daylight. The female reporter was shocked when she saw the scene at the entrance of the cave. She was so scared that she almost fainted. A tall and burly man walked out of the chilly wind and fog. He was at least 3 meters tall, and he was wearing a golden python robe. The man wore a crown on his head, a jade belt around his waist, and a purple python robe. He had a green face and fangs. His hair was disheveled, and his whole body was covered in green scales. He looked like a human-shaped monster made of will-o'-the-wisps. Countless will-o'-the-wisps of will-o'-the-wisps surrounded him. A few armored ghost generals were clearing the way for him. However, their bodies were slightly smaller, and their flame scales were not as dense. They looked a little illusory. Sure enough, this old bastard Li Wuji. I don't know if he made a mistake or deliberately tricked us. We've underestimated this old ghost. Taoist Master Redleaf frowned and thought. Will-o'-the-wisps only had instinctive consciousness. Ghosts were extremely powerful and had recovered the consciousness and memories of their previous lives. They were divided into ghost soldiers, ghost generals, ghost kings, and so on. Ghost kings usually had a physical body. They could not only attack with divine soul spells and create illusions, but they could also attack with force. But even ghost kings were not free bodies. They were still afraid of sunlight and couldn't move in the daytime. However, this fierce ghost was not afraid of sunlight at all. He could come and go as he pleased. He could even protect his followers with his Dharma power. He was at least at the level of a ghost king. Little bug, why are you looking for me? Ghost King Mang Mountain asked arrogantly. Ghost King, the spirit qi of Tianqing School has recovered. Adept Redleaf cupped his fists as he spoke, using both emotion and reason. Ha, I used to be Lu Shang, the king of Hejian. I've lived for more than 2,000 years. Who does Kang Te-Chu think he is? How dare he ask me to submit to his alliance? Listen to his orders. Bah! Ghost Emperor Mang Mountain snickered and looked at him with disdain, saying, I'm not convinced even if he's from the Qin dynasty, let alone a kid like him. I can join the Myth Alliance if he wants. Give up the position of the leader, kowtow to me and lick my toes. Ghost King. Taoist Master Redleaf still wanted to persuade him. The sky corpses and ghost cultivators have nothing to do with you. Did Kang Te-Chu ask for my permission? How dare he call himself the most powerful person in the world and ask me to join the alliance? Aren't you afraid of biting your tongue? Ghost King Mang Mountain roared. If you dare to throw tantrums again, I'll bathe your heavenly clear sect in blood. Then, I'll create a ghost emperor, and 10,000 ghosts will come to pay homage. I'll turn this colorful world and bright universe into hell on earth. This scene was transmitted to the screen through the reporter's camera and in front of everyone's eyes. Before the spirit chi recovers, we must suppress these terrifying forces. It's too scary. For a moment, countless people were exclaiming. If Kang Tae-chu is not convinced, come and fight with me. I'll tear this kid to pieces. Ghost King Mang Mountain roared and turned into a ball of green light. He shrank back into the tomb and disappeared. Facing the provocation of many forces, there was a lot of discussion. My husband is in seclusion, and I'm pregnant. I can't go out. However, Tianqing School's reputation is earned through fighting and killing. The reputation of being the #1 orthodoxy on earth is not for nothing. We will definitely recover the spirit chi. If you want to fight, then let's fight. Zhao Xueqing was interviewed again in Sidoni's main training hall of Tianqing School. She shouted across the air, tit for tat, and refused to back down. We'll give you one last chance to reconsider. The war will break out in 3 days. Your Tianqing sect can be called the #1 orthodoxy only because we pre-Qin Chi refinement clans went into seclusion and were unwilling to bother with you, allowing clowns like you to jump around. Otherwise, you would have been wiped out long ago. This time, it was Yu Fenghua who appeared on camera and accepted the interview. Her eyes were full of contempt, as if Jiang Tian and Tianqing School were just ants. They also attached many videos of the pre-Qin dynasty. Some people flew into the sky and burrowed into the ground. Some people shook mountains with their hands. Some people destroyed tanks with their bare hands. Some people controlled substances. For a time, public opinion was in an uproar. This time, Jiang Tian and the pre-Qin dynasty released a large amount of information. The Demon Clan and the Ghost Clan had appeared in the world. Only then did the people realize. They were actually in a world where experts were as numerous as the clouds. It was a wonderful world. It turned out that under the normal mortal world, there was an even more mysterious world of cultivation hidden. It was a world full of special abilities, violence, and slaughter. There were so many powerful experts, and there were so many of them, secretly controlling the trajectory and fate of the surface world. In fact, they did not wait until the 3rd day. The next day, the Dragon Lake of Whitehead Mountain and the Ghost Clan of Mount Mang took practical action. Roar! The roar shook the mountains and rivers. In a bustling hot pot restaurant in the mountain town of Qingzhong, a zombie with wings suddenly flew into the restaurant. This zombie was 3 meters tall and as strong as a mountain. It waved its iron hook-like hands and killed anyone it saw. The crowd fled in fear. In the blink of an eye, hundreds of people died. The police rushed over and shot the zombie with pistols, but they could not hurt it at all. I'm the flying Yiksha under the Ghost Emperor of Mount Mang. I'm warning Kang Tae-chu with the blood of the dead. Take the position of chairman of the Myth Alliance in 3 days. Otherwise, I'll come out again. He lifted the roadblock, flattened the explosion-proof car with 1 foot, and tore the police into pieces. He roared unscrupulously. Chapter 12:27. It was a flying Yiksha, which was even more powerful than the zombie kings and Yikshas. It was only slightly weaker than the heavenly corpses. He was able to break through the defense line and retreat when faced with the bullets of the explosion-proof vehicles and submachine guns. This scene was captured by the reporters and the public. The horrifying and chaotic scenes were spread to every corner of the world through the media and self-media. It made people's hair stand. Then, at 7:00 that night, the sirens also made a move. In a small town in Guangxi, hundreds of poisonous snakes, foxes and gerfalcons suddenly attacked a restaurant and killed dozens of people. Although no one announced that they were responsible for this incident, everyone knew that this was definitely the work of the bewitching demon clan. Kang Tae-chu, come out. Didn't you say that you were able to deal with them? Some citizens shouted loudly when they were being interviewed by the media. Indeed. Jiang Taichu said that there is no problem with the evolution of demonic beasts. However, the world hasn't changed yet, and so many people have already died. Can he take responsibility for this? A family member of the injured said with tears in his eyes. Meanwhile, the Tianqing school announced that the dojos in Huaxia would send out a special force to kill the flying yikshaws and the sirens. But as soon as they found the target, the flying yikshaw escaped as if it had disappeared from the world. The next day, the flying yikshaws and the demonic spirits caused a few more incidents of demon beasts and ghost cultivators attacking the public safety of the downtown area, causing even greater waves. This time, the Huaxia Defenders Alliance arrived just in time. Ing Su led the team and besieged the flying yikshaw. However, the people from the pre-Qin sects also arrived and joined the battle. In the end, it was Yin Chaoga and the others from the famous pre-Qin sects that successfully subdued the flying yikshaw and a few other ghostly cultivators. Then, they turned to battle again. Within a day, they killed another fox spirit that had yet to successfully transform but was still very powerful. They were watching my live stream, so they turned on the live stream and let the netizens around the world see them. They flew in the sky with their Dharma treasures and broke the sound barrier. They were even faster than fighter jets. The power of their Dharma treasures was as shocking as nuclear explosions. The pre-Qin dynasty is subduing monsters. So cool. Everyone was in an uproar. No one had expected the pre-Qin clan to be so up-to-date with the times and even broadcast live. Instantly, hundreds of millions of people gathered in the live broadcast room. Many people put down their work and sat in front of the TV, computer, or mobile phone to watch the live broadcast. Moreover, after suppressing the mastermind behind the scenes, the famous pre-Qin sects also quickly reached an agreement with the Dragon Pool Demon Emperor, the ghost cultivators of Mount Mang, and other forces. The latter expressed his deep apologies for the previous violent incident. They were just trying to teach Kang Taechu a lesson. Since the famous pre-Qin sect had spoken, they had to give face. From today onwards, the two forces of demonic spirits and ghost cultivators would no longer disturb the secular world. Kang Taechu claimed that he could deal with the great changes in the world caused by the recovery of spirit qi, but what about now? In the Look at Me live stream, Yu Fenghua appeared once again with a mocking expression. Spiritual qi hasn't started to recover yet, so the demon beasts and ghost cultivators are very weak. But he hid in his cave and didn't dare to come out like a turtle. In the end, it was us, the famous pre-Qin sects, who turned the tide. The recovery of spiritual power must not be allowed. Have you seen how terrifying the demon beasts and evil spirits are? Kang Taechu is just messing around. Cutie Lee, an online celebrity, shouted in the live stream. Obviously, Kang Taechu doesn't have the ability to deal with the crisis. Only the famous pre-Qin sects are the strongest. Only then can we suppress the heretics and stabilize Huaxia. After all, the pre-Qin is the origin of Huaxia civilization, and the qi refinement cultivators of the pre-Qin sect are the orthodox. Kang Taechu can't do it at all. A popular celebrity said so in an interview. This Weibo post was forwarded by 100,000 people in an instant. In fact, the famous pre-Qin sects were also supported by a large number of political and business forces. Although their financial resources were not as good as Jiang Tian's, they were not to be underestimated. They spent hundreds of millions to buy internet water army to guide the direction of public opinion. Although people like Cutie Lee hated Jiang Tian, they were mostly paid to do so. Down with the dictator Kang Taechu and stop the recovery of spirit qi. Earth needs peace and stability. Mankind doesn't want a third world war. It was to the extent where there were quite a few people harboring evil intentions who came to Jiang Tian, gathering in front of the various bronze statues, demonstrating. They shouted slogans, splashed ink, feces and urine on the bronze statues, burned Jiang Tian's photos, Sidoni's national flag and tried to destroy Jiang Tian's bronze statues. Isn't Kang Taechu a hero? Why do people hate him so much? Seeing the picture on the news, Iris's daughter asked with tears in her eyes. She had been idolizing Jiang Tian for the past few days, but in the blink of an eye, her idol was ruthlessly shattered. The little girl couldn't accept it. In the meantime, Ing Su and Ji Mingchuan had a fierce quarrel at the Guardians of Huaxia's base. Mingchuan, we clearly had the ability to kill that flying yiksha. Why did you stop me? Did you want the famous preaching sects to show off? Ing Su asked anxiously with a pale face. Currently, they were the leaders of the Huaxia Defenders Alliance, and Ji Mingchuan was the vice leader. However, everyone in the alliance knew that he was just a puppet, a marionette, and the real leader was Ji Mingchuan. Such a quarrel was extremely rare. Next to them, Zhu Shaoqin and the others looked over. Ing Su, you have to consider the big picture. Ji Mingchuan said coldly. But do you know how many innocent people will be killed if the flying yiksha escapes? Ing Su shouted. They won't escape. Ji Mingchuan said with a sinister smile. What do you mean? Ing Su was stunned and suddenly understood. He couldn't help but feel a chill in his heart and his face turned pale. He lowered his head and laughed. Everything is just a trap. I was wondering why you knew where the flying yiksha was hiding in the first place. I was wondering why Tianqing School and our search lines would be broken through by the yiksha again and again. He raised his head and shouted, this is a trap set up by the famous preaching sects, Longqi, and Mang Mountain. One played the good cop, the other played the bad cop. The yiksha and ghostly cultivators did evil and let the famous preaching sects kill them to establish supreme authority and make contributions, suppressing Kang Te-Chu. No, they didn't even kill them. They secretly let them go. Everything is for the control of the Mythic Alliance. But answer me, aren't the lives of those dead lives? Ji Mingchuan didn't deny it. He patted Ing Su's shoulder and smiled. We did this to stop more bloodshed and sacrifice. It's also for the preaching sect's hegemony. What are a few hundred lives? They're just ants and dust. Don't be soft-hearted and think about the big picture. To hell with the big picture. A bunch of despicable and shameless people. I quit. Ing Su threw the chief token of Huaxia's Defenders League on the ground and cursed. Ing Su, how dare you talk to me with such an attitude? Ji Mingchuan was furious. You've forgotten who gave you this position. Who gave you the glory and wealth you have today? Who drove Yi Zhantian away? Look at how badly you were bullied by Kang Te-Chu back then. No matter how fierce and domineering Kang Te-Chu is, at least he won't be so despicable and shameless. I'm ashamed to be associated with you. Ing Su left without looking back. Kill him. We must kill him. Ji Mingchuan, Zhu Shaoqin, Yi Yuhui, Li Kuangkou, and the others looked at each other and suddenly attacked Ing Su together. Half an hour later, Ing Su, who was covered in wounds and bleeding profusely, staggered out of the base of the Defender Alliance. Behind him were several hundred soldiers. Ancestor, I'm being hunted now because... No, it's useless. If I say anything now, I'll be flooded with messages from the preaching sections. I'll even be hunted down by the preaching sects. No, I don't trust anyone now. I have to go to Tianqing School. I only trust Kang Te-Chu now. Take care. He leaped between the cities and made a quick escape. At the same time, he called Ying Laozu and explained everything. His murderous eyes were filled with determination. But under the influence of the preaching sections, the support rate for Jiang Tian and Tianqing School was getting lower and lower. On the third day, there were only a few 100 million people supporting them. However, the preaching sects had reached a few billion people. They had an overwhelming advantage. At this moment, Yu Jingtian appeared on camera for the first time. He spoke on the live broadcast of Look at Me. Kang Te-Chu, the people are on my side now. Are you going to stubbornly resist until the end? The 3 days are almost up. If you don't remove the spirit channeling formation, spirit creation well, and hand over the spiritual chi recovery seed, I will not hesitate to attack your dojo. I'm looking forward to your response. This time, the people were in an uproar. Yu Jingtian was originally very handsome. In order to gain the favor of the people, he even hired a stylist to make him look like a domineering CEO. He even performed a lot of flying skills like Superman and immediately won a large number of fans. Wow, he's so cool. He's the descendant of Yu the Great. Yu the Great controlled the flood and built the Great Xia dynasty. How can Kang Taechu compare to him? That's right, that's right. Kang Taechu is just an ordinary person. He's not as glorious as Yu the Great. One is in the sky while the other is on the ground. Many fangirls firmly supported Yu Jingtian and the pre-Qin sections. After all, Jiang Tian had killed so many people that blood flowed like a river. He was too violent, unlike Yu Jingtian, who was gentle and refined. In order to increase the participation and entertainment of this battle, we've opened a bet. You can vote and send gifts. If you guess correctly, the gift from the wrong party will be divided according to the share. Watch me, Yu Fenghua reminded with a smile in the live broadcast room. Her every move, every frown, and every smile was full of charm. She was extremely moving and had conquered countless otakus. She was quickly promoted to a goddess. After a few hours, there was still no response from Tianqing School. Yu Jingtian appeared in the live broadcast room again and said something shocking. Don't say I didn't warn you. I've already warned you. At 10 o'clock tomorrow morning, we'll wipe out Shenong School's dojo and kill your disciples to force Kang Taechu to come out. I'll continue the live broadcast after that. As soon as he said that. In the live broadcast room, tens of millions of viewers were boiling with excitement. It's time for real. Let's go. It's so exciting to be able to witness the battle between Kang Taechu and Yu Jingtian. Oh my god. I can't believe I can witness the battle between the pre-Qin Qi practitioners and Kang Taechu. It's worth it even if I die. Yeah, it's so exciting. No one will miss it. For a moment, all the planes and high-speed trains to Shenong School in Hubei province were full. Even the highways and national highways were blocked. Countless people rushed to the back of Mount Amei. After all, even though there was a live broadcast and VR technology, it was not as good as watching the battle in person. Chapter 1228. While the world was in an uproar over the revival of spirit qi, in the depths of Tianqing School, Jiang Tian had successfully formed the Thunder Dragon Divine Body and was on the verge of forming the sixth fake elixir. At this time, Jiang Tian was sitting in the void with his eyes closed like an old monk. The 100-meter-long lightning around him was like a gentle silk ribbon, but there was no sign of violence, making him look like the god of thunder. At this time, he controlled the lightning, which was one of the most violent energies in the world. In his energy center, there was a Thunder Dragon Divine Body on the ground. It was made up of the supreme essence of lightning and had a pair of wind and thunder wings on its back. Motherfucker, there's no justice in this world. He actually condensed the body of the lightning slaughter god, and even grew out small wings. This is too heaven-defying. I heard from my dead parents that out of 10,000 Thunder Manis, there might not even be one that can evolve into a divine body. In Jiang Tian's mind, the divine soul of the Thunder Dragon looked at the changes outside and gritted its teeth with jealousy. The Thunder Dragon Divine Body was not an ordinary Thunder Dragon Divine Body, but a divine body evolved from an innate divine beast like the Thunder Dragon. This divine body had not yet reached the phenomenal level and was still in a virtual state. But it had already formed the wind and thunder wings, which could control the power of space and resist space fragments. It could shrink the ground to an inch and travel 1,000 miles in one step. The Thunder Dragon Divine Body is too difficult to cultivate. It belongs to the most violent type of energy. I'm only at the initial level now. I have to swallow all the Thunder Dragon pills to enrich the divine body. It would be best if I could form a fake elixir. Jiang Tian's eyes were filled with awe as he started to refine the Thunder Dragon Divine Body bit by bit. Swallow. Jiang Tian swallowed the Thunder Dragon pills one by one. They instantly turned into surging thunder energy and surged into his limbs and bones. Jiang Tian's energy center was shaking violently. Swallow the Thunder Dragon pills. not slowly refining them. You're unbelievable. You're awesome. I'm scared of you. Lei Meng was so scared that he screamed, trembled, and complained. Several days later, outside Jiang Tian's cultivation room, Ying Su bowed his head respectfully to Zhao Shueqing and asked anxiously, "What's the matter? Senior Tai Chu, when will you come out of seclusion?" His eyes were filled with despair. It had only been a few days since the Qin dynasty declared war, but in these few days, the outside world had undergone earth-shaking changes. The White Dragon Mountain's Dragon Lake led the demons of the world out of the mountain and appeared in the city. They killed people and plundered their goods, flaunting their prowess. The Ghost Emperor of Mount Mang's 100 Ghosts Night Parade walked the human world and stirred up trouble. It was only when Yu Jingtian of the pre-Qin dynasty spoke up that the demonic spirits and ghost cultivators reigned in their forces and no longer acted on a large scale. The famous sects of the pre-Qin dynasty could summon the wind and summon the rain. Every day, they would attack Jiang Tian's various Dao temples in Huaxia, defeating the disciples guarding them. In these few days, they had already swept through the Shenong, ancient Wudang, Diansang, and Tian Shan Daoist sect like a violent storm. Only the Amei Daoist sect was left. However, it seemed that it would be difficult for them to support the sect alone. Currently, the 4 nascent soul formation elders had not made a move. They were guarding Sidoni's main Dao temple and protecting Jiang Tian. Basically, all the Dao temples of the Tianqing school in Huaxia were guarded by figures at the foundation stage like Shen Mange. It was obvious that it was difficult for them to deal with the famous sects of the pre-Qin dynasty. Shen Mange, who was guarding the Shenong school, was already severely injured. In fact, although Situ Shao and Yi Tianren had already reached the fake Dan stage and arrived in Huaxia, Shen Mange and Zhao Yuankuan treated this crisis as a rare opportunity to hone themselves. They did not allow the 2 guardians to make a move. Thus, on the surface, it looked like the major Dao temples of the Tianqing school were retreating step by step. They were not a match for them. Every day, experts or organizations announced that they had joined the famous sects of the pre-Qin dynasty. The entire cultivation world of Huaxia was in chaos. The world spirit qi recovery plan was basically in a state of stagnation. Now, Yu Jingtian was known as the most powerful person under the immortal trap formation. He was even more famous than Jiang Tian was back then. Jiang Tian and the Tianqing school had not succeeded in killing a single person from the famous sects of the pre-Qin dynasty. They had become the biggest joke in the world. Kang Teichu is known as the master of the 3 realms. He must be bluffing. Now that his Dao temple has been destroyed and his disciples are seriously injured, he doesn't dare to come out. What a coward. Kang Teichu is strong, but he can't resist the power of the immortal trap formation. His cultivation is stuck at the 3rd level of the foundation stage. He can't compare with the famous sects of the pre-Qin dynasty. That's right. The pre-Qin dynasty cultivators are the orthodox cultivators. Kang Teichu is a heretical cultivator. They are too far apart. Isn't Kang Teichu awesome? He said he could recover the world's spirit qi and was confident that he could suppress the monsters and beasts after the great changes in the world. But now that demons and ghost cultivators have appeared, why doesn't he dare to suppress them? What a boast. Fortunately, he hasn't succeeded in recovering the world's spirit qi. If he did, then wouldn't mankind be doomed? From the heads of state and powerful cultivators to the leaders of financial groups and cultural celebrities, to the lowly peddlers and peddlers, all of them were disappointed in Jiang Tian. Some sighed regretfully, while others shook their heads mockingly. Ying Su used to regard Jiang Tian as a target to catch up with and was jealous of Jiang Tian. But at the critical moment, he stood on Jiang Tian's side. In fact, he had a good foundation. Back then, he took the initiative to gather the reclusive royalty to resist the invasion of the Holy See and the Brahmin. But because he disrupted Jiang Tian's plan and didn't teach Jiang Tian a lesson, there was a gap and conflict. Little doll, don't be noisy. Master is in seclusion to break through. We can't disturb him. Violators will be killed without mercy. Faced with Ingsu's request, Lotus Old Rulai's face was ferocious as he berated loudly. But if this goes on, Huaxia will really be in chaos. Alright, you guys continue with your seclusion. I'll go and fight with them. Ingsu's eyes were filled with resentment and disappointment as he turned to leave. Kang Taechu, you keep saying that you have the ability to deal with the changes after the recovery of the world's spirit chi. But now, the world's spirit chi hasn't recovered yet, and the world hasn't changed yet, but it's already in chaos. Just as Ingsu walked 5 to 6 meters away, the sky above Tianqing School formed a sea of lightning with a radius of hundreds of miles. Thunderbolts as thick as buckets swam abruptly like silver pythons, pouring into the depths of the sect. Will Godfather be okay? Outside, little Arthur asked nervously. He had seen thunder divine powers before. Zhang Qianlei used to show off in front of little Arthur by condensing thunderbolts. But at this moment, compared to Jiang Tian's thunder divine power, little Arthur felt that Zhang Qianlei's thunderbolts were like toys, not worth mentioning. Is this the Taichu true god? The great Taichu? Please save us. At this moment, not only was he shocked, but the entire northern region of Sidoni witnessed this shocking scene. Tens of millions of people knelt down as if they were seeing a god. Thousands of thunderbolts. Looks like Master's Thunder Slaughter divine body has succeeded. Hey, this cultivation speed is so fast that even the overlords of the ruins of deity have to admit defeat. True Dragon Ancestor and the other three were filled with admiration, and amazement. They could not help but sigh in admiration and envy. The Thunder Slaughter divine body was rumored to be the most powerful thunder divine body in the universe. Even if a Thunder Slaughter had a Khanate bloodline and Khanate divine powers, it would take a long time to cultivate it. However, Jiang Tian only used a young Thunder Centipede's fake core and the Thunder Accumulation pill to condense it in just half a month. This was simply heaven-defying to the extreme. Zhao Xueqing's face also showed a trace of pride. At this time, Jiang Tian had refined all the Thunder Accumulation pills and the Thunder Slaughter divine body in Jiang Tian's Dantian had finally become solid. At this time, the Thunder Slaughter divine body wasn't made of flesh and blood at all. It was almost made of pure thunder energy. It was crystal clear and dazzling with rolling thunder. And the Thunder Slaughter divine body also formed a fake core in the shape of a Thunder Slaughter. Every inch of Jiang Tian's bones, meridians and even cells contained a huge amount of thunder energy and were trembling violently. He'd even formed a fake core in Thunderbolt's divine body. Once each ball of lightning energy exploded, it would be a huge blast of lightning. When unleashed, it could blow up mountains and flatten the ground. Its power was comparable to that of a nuclear bomb. And yet, there were at least a few hundred balls of thunder energy in Jiang Tian's body right then. If Jiang Tian's divine body exploded, it would be as powerful as the explosion of a few hundred nuclear weapons. If a thunderbolt exploded, it could easily turn a golden core into ashes and even a nascent soul cultivator might not be able to withstand it. If Jiang Tian was facing True Dragon Ancestral Patriarch and the other three nascent soul overlords, he wouldn't need to use the Cauldron of Creation to deal with them. He only needed to use the Thunder Slaughter divine body to suppress them. Jiang Tian had the power of 6 fake cores right then and they were all divine-grade fake cores from his divine body, which was even more powerful than a sacred-grade or celestial-grade fake core. Even the powerful sects and imperishable heritages in the central galaxy would have to admit defeat when they saw him. The Thunder Slaughter divine body has finally reached phenomenal success. Along with a shout, the cultivation room suddenly exploded. The 1,000-meter-long Lei Zu's divine body, which was entirely made of lightning, was forcefully blown apart. Thousands of meters of lightning bolts swallowed and spat out, shooting straight into the void. Right then, Jiang Tian was surrounded by thunderbolts. He was extremely dazzling and there were several meters of thunderbolts shooting out from his eyes. Everyone closed their eyes and didn't dare to look at the dazzling thunderbolts. Did he break through? How frightening is his power? Ingsu halted her steps, her face filled with shock. As the leader of the younger generation of the reclusive royalty, he had the power of an earth-level deity, but he felt that Jiang Tian's power was too terrifying and he couldn't shake it at all. But then, he murmured worriedly, why isn't there a deity entrapment tribulation? Or is this the deity entrapment tribulation? In fact, at this moment, there was indeed a suppressive force suddenly descending from the heavens and earth. Su suddenly felt a chilling killing intent appear between the heavens and earth, as if he was being stared at by a primordial vicious beast, causing his heart to palpitate. The deity entrapment tribulation. But master should be able to dodge it with the art of deceiving the heavens and the thick earth god-suppressing chains. Not only him, even the 4 nascent soul cultivators and Zhao Xueqing looked worried and frowned as they looked at the sky. Chapter 1229. Ever since Jiang Tian reached the Foundation establishment stage on the Sword Tomb Island, all of his breakthroughs had taken place in other dimensions. Today was the first time he had broken through on Earth after reaching the Foundation establishment stage, so it was bound to disturb the immortal trap array. As expected, Jiang Tian's monstrous aura suddenly shrank and quickly turned into an ordinary person with black hair and black eyes. The Thunder Slaughter divine body and the Sea of Thunder also disappeared in seconds, returning to a cloudless and calm state. The pressure and killing intent, which seemed to have consciousness, hovered in confusion for a while and then retreated unwillingly. Brilliant! The 4 nascent soul stage cultivators were shocked. Not to mention that Jiang Tian was powerful, with such a brilliant technique. Even if Jiang Tian was just an ordinary person, he could still succeed in a sneak attack. Is he still a human? Although Jiang Tian had returned to the appearance of an ordinary person, Su's throat was dry when he recalled the power of Jiang Tian's Thunder Slaughter divine body. He felt suffocated and had difficulty breathing. Congratulations, my lord, for breaking through again and condensing the 6th divine grade false core and building the 6th divine body. Now it seems that it's only a matter of time before you build the strongest chaotic divine body in the universe. The 4 nascent soul stage cultivators stepped forward and bowed respectfully on the ground, flattering him as if they were meeting a real god. Divine grade false core. Divine body. Chaotic divine body. At the side, Su listened in a daze, but at the same time, he was filled with respect. He had never heard of these words before, but he felt that they were very powerful. Get up. Jiang Tian smiled and nodded slightly, not taking it to heart. Then he stepped forward and held Qing'er's hand. He carefully sensed the physical condition of her and her gluttonous daughter and said, "You and your child have recovered well. I'll help you adjust your meridians and nourish your qi and blood. It'll be even better. I'll write a prescription and give it to the alchemy room, or I'll make it myself." Then he took out a pen and paper and wrote on it. He was very attentive and didn't look at the disciples who were waiting for him. "Jiang Tian, there are some changes in the situation outside. We have to deal with it immediately." Zhao Xueqing didn't know whether to laugh or cry. She was both touched and helpless. In this world, nothing is more important than my wife and children. Jiang Tian stared intently as he wrote and drew. He cultivated a spiritual herb and optimized an alchemy process. Shen Mange is injured. Beside them, Su was so anxious that he scratched his ears and cheeks. Kang Teichu, what kind of situation is this? Is the fire burning your eyebrows? Why are you still so calm? No one died. Jiang Tian's words made Su completely speechless. In fact, Jiang Tian was quite confident in his disciples. Against the famous Pre-Qin clans, they could at least survive. As for winning or losing, Jiang Tian had already become indifferent to fame and glory. Compared to victory or defeat, it was more important to sharpen the disciples. It wasn't until he personally went to the alchemy room that Jiang Tian felt relieved. He turned around and asked, "How's the situation outside? Tell me." Everyone hurriedly started talking at once, reporting the situation outside. Su also reported the situation of the famous Pre-Qin clans in detail. It turns out that the famous Pre-Qin clans also control the spiritual qi recovery seeds. This information is very valuable. Su, you have forsaken the darkness for the light. From now on, we will be comrades and comrades. After listening to Ingsu, Jiang Tian nodded with a smile and expressed his appreciation and welcome for Ingsu's arrival. I dare not. You are my senior. In front of Jiang Tian, Ingsu couldn't be arrogant at all. He cupped his fists respectfully. Because of the power of Jiang Tian's lightning slaughter divine body, he knew that all the information Jiang Tian announced was true. Although he was a genius of reclusive royalty, Jiang Tian had already swept through 3 worlds. Compared to him, he was nothing. It was as if he had just bought a grocery cart that cost tens of thousands of yuan, while Jiang Tian had already boarded a private plane. They were not at the same level at all. Suddenly, Ingsu's spirit was blessed. He bowed his head and said generously, full of expectation. I am willing to enter Tianqing School and follow Senior Tai Chu to fight on the battlefield, conquer the dimensional world, and the Sea of Stars. Good. But you don't have to kneel down. You don't have to do the ceremony. Jiang Tian gladly agreed without the slightest hesitation. After that, he stretched out his hands and helped Qin Shi up. Senior Tai Chu, you are willing to accept me? Ingsu was stunned and couldn't believe it. First of all, he had seen the arrogance of the famous pre-Qin sections. Their cultivation was only at the fake core level, but they were already arrogant and regarded him as an ant. Right now, Jiang Tian had 6 divine-grade fake pellets, more than just a bit higher than them. His sect's mystic arts were not inferior to pre-Qin's famed sects in the slightest. However, he accepted all kinds of talents and treated them with respect. Secondly, he had interfered with Tianqing School's plan in the Battle of Lansang River. He had also played tricks to squeeze out the original long formation of 4 spiritual generals and 8. Although he was hesitant and didn't do it himself, he was still on Ji Muxian's side after all. But now, he was repaying evil with good. You are not a bad person. Why should I refuse you when you want to protect the country and the people? Furthermore, you did guard my spirit guiding array. Wait a minute. Jiang Tian smiled. From now on, you will be the top disciple of the 2nd generation. Ancestor Zhenlong will teach you cultivation in the future. Clatter. Tears instantly rolled down Ingsu's cheeks. His tall body trembled non-stop. He kowtowed again and said in a trembling voice, Senior Tai Chu, my life is yours from now on. I will bleed to the last drop of my blood for Tianqing School. At this moment, he really felt that Jiang Tian's heart was wider than the universe. The famous pre-Qin sects were definitely not comparable to him. Jiang Tian nodded slightly, and then a trace of coldness appeared on his face. His eyes were as cold as knives. Alas, Yu Jingtian said that I was fierce and my hands were stained with blood. Those were just words to confuse the people. The main reason is that they want to control Earth because I threaten their position. But these famous pre-Qin sects still talk about family background and bloodline. It's ridiculous. Didn't they know that more than 2,000 years ago, there were people who said that nobles, generals, and officials were superior? Power has always been in the hands of the most people. Cultivators also rose from among the mortals. To put it bluntly, those demons from Dragon Lake and ghost cultivators from Mount Mang are also their people. They are playing with each other to show their authority. I was very kind and merciful at first. I wanted to form a mythical alliance and invite the knowledgeable people and heroes in the world to fight for the fate of Earth and the civilization of mankind. But these clowns are shameless and want to be my enemy. That's fine too. Then I'll leave the mountain for once. I'll sweep away all the ghosts and snakes and crush them into powder. The next moment, Jiang Tian rose into the air and turned into a bright thunderbolt that pierced through the sky and shot into the distance. His target was Hua Xia. Let's go. Our Lord has taken action personally. There's no need for us to be polite. Let's go. The 4 nascent soul cultivators looked at each other. Their eyes were filled with murderous intent and bloodthirsty light. Mount Mang, Mount Mang. The Ghost King of Hejian was drinking and talking with Yama Wang of Fengdu, the Heavenly Corpse Cultivator, Nye Shaoqian of Lanrua Temple and other ghost lords and ghost generals. Kang Taechu is just a fool. He thinks I'm an idiot and wants me to join his mythical alliance and be controlled by him. Lu Shang, the king of Hejian, sipped his wine and sneered proudly. We are ghost soldiers, ghost generals and heavenly corpse cultivators. We don't absorb his spiritual qi. How dare he say that? Now that we've killed so many people, why doesn't he dare to come out? When he recovers his spiritual qi, the world will change and the spiritual qi will be released. But there will also be smoke and evil spirits everywhere. Evil beasts will run rampant and countless people will die. It will be very beneficial for us. It can even help us become ghost immortals. Beneath him, the Yama king of Fengdu was also a ghost emperor, but he was only slightly weaker than him. I think we'd better show our support. Although Yu Jingtian is very powerful now, Kang Taechu hasn't shown his trump card yet. Situ Shao and Yi Tianren haven't even done anything yet. Yama Wang, you don't know what Kang Taechu is talking about. Ghost King Mang Mountain sneered. We joined the mythical alliance for more than just a title. We still have to work. We have to listen to the orders of his soul hall and help him collect the souls of the dead. That way, he can use a secret art to revive the dead. When the time comes, you won't be able to eat the souls of the dead. You want to become a ghost immortal? Dream on. You'll be lucky if you don't starve to death. The female ghost from Lanrua Temple, Nye Shaoqian, was dressed in white. She had the face of a flower and the face of the moon. Her beauty was unparalleled. I see. Then we won't do it. If he forces us, we'll go around killing souls. Can he protect so many people in the world? Why? He wants us to work for him. He's just a kid. He doesn't know what's good for him. Many zombies, yikshas, messengers, Oxhead and Horseface were drunk. They slammed the table and shouted angrily, denouncing Jiang Tian. Ghost King Hejian, I heard that you want to be the leader of the mythical alliance. Please come out. At this time, a cold voice was heard. You son of a bitch. How dare you make trouble in front of my palace? Do you think I, Ghost King Mang Mountain, am a pushover? Lu Shang, the Ghost King of Hejian, was furious. He slammed the table and stood up, leading the ghost soldiers, generals, zombies and yikshas to the outside of the tomb. You are Kang Taechu. When Lu Shang came out of the door, he saw a handsome man in a white robe standing in the air. Beside him, Adept Redleaf was hugging a kitten. He was bowing in a servile manner. Only Kang Taechu could be treated like this by perfected cultivator Hongye. There were a few cameras in the distance. Apparently, the media knew that Jiang Tian would appear. That's me. Jiang Tian's face was calm. He looked down at him as if he was looking at an ant and said coldly, I heard that you refused to join the mythical alliance. I'll give you 1 minute to think about it. Surrender to me, or die. Ghost King Mang Mountain was furious when he heard that. He said mockingly, Kang Taechu, I've heard of you. You're the supreme ruler of the 3 realms. But I won't lie to you. I also have a way to escape the restrictions of the deity trap. I've even killed a golden core cultivator of the Pre-Qin dynasty. You're just a level 3 foundation establishment cultivator. Since you're here, take the opportunity to announce to the world that I'll be the leader of the mythical alliance. I'll be in charge of the recovery of spiritual qi. In the future, I, Ghost King Mang Mountain, will be the supreme ruler of this world. At this time, the flying yiksha who had been causing trouble everywhere roared, Kang Taechu, how dare you be so arrogant in front of the Ghost King? Kneel down. Smack. Jiang Tian raised his hand and slapped the flying yiksha, causing its flesh and blood to splatter and turn into dust. He did not hold back at all. Chapter 1230. You're too arrogant. You killed my disciple. Do you think I don't exist? The heavenly corpse old monster roared. Kill him. A group of flying yikshaws and zombies roared madly. There were more than 10 of them. Some flew into the sky and burrowed into the ground. Some ran madly towards Jiang Tian. Go to hell. Jiang Tian slammed his palm down. The earth quaked, the mountains shook, and the tombs collapsed. A huge palm print with a radius of several hundred meters appeared. The heavenly corpse old monster and many of his subordinates were turned into meat paste. The zombie clan in this area had been completely wiped out. Their entire clan had been wiped out. The entire place went silent. Oh my God! Everyone was dumbfounded. Nie Xiaoqian's face turned pale and her body trembled. The heavenly corpse old monster had no problem killing overlords below the 3rd level of the Foundation establishment level, but he was killed by Kang Taechu in seconds. Kang Taechu's strength was terrifying. You still have half a minute, flicking his finger. Jiang Tian's expression was very calm, like still water. He was neither sad nor happy as he coldly looked at Ghost Monarch Mang Mountain. Kang Taechu, how dare you kill my subordinate in front of me? Ghost Emperor Mang Mountain was stunned for a moment before he suddenly roared loudly. Are you blind? Can't you see? Jiang Tian sneered. You've gone too far. Ghost Emperor Mang Mountain said arrogantly. Do you think you're a match for me? You're all ants under the deity trap array, but I have a way to break it. My strength is comparable to a golden core cultivator. You're just a 3rd level Foundation establishment level trash. Come on, let's have a fight. You're no match for me. You can't even beat a cat like me. Jiang Tian said with a faint smile. Bastard, I'm going to tear you to shreds. Ghost Emperor Mang Mountain roared and charged at Jiang Tian. His voice was like a sudden clap of thunder. Violent sound waves and airwaves surged, shaking everything within a radius of 100 miles. Trees were broken, and mountains were shaking. Is Ghost Emperor Mang Mountain born? Is the war about to begin? Even the citizens of Luoyang City could hear it clearly. They all looked up in the direction of Mount Mang. Some even turned on their live streams. Your Majesty Ghost Emperor, don't be rash. This kid's body is tough to the extreme and his chi and blood are exuberant. Since he has come to throw away his life, I might as well occupy him. In the future, when I go out, I won't need to expend any magic power. At the side, King of Hell Fengdu stared at Jiang Tian carefully, and then saliva dripped down, full of greed. Good house, good house. Ghost Emperor Mang Mountain stopped in his tracks and carefully sized him up. Suddenly, his green eyes revealed a look of ecstasy as he let out a strange laugh. This body has chi and blood that has been refined for thousands of years. Its acupoints are unobstructed. Moreover, it is very young and fresh, as pure as a newborn baby. If I occupy this room, not only will my cultivation not be damaged when I travel during the day, my power will also increase tenfold. He didn't even fear those fellows from the Copper Sparrow Terrace and Ipang Palace. I didn't expect you to be so kind as to deliver it to my doorstep for me to use. Good, then this old man will be disrespectful today. Watch me destroy your soul and occupy your body. His body swayed, and the golden python robe fell to the ground. He had already turned into hundreds of fist-sized will-o-wisps and drilled into Jiang Tian's 7 apertures. As soon as Ghost Emperor Mang Mountain's soul entered his body, Jiang Tian immediately felt a strong and irresistible consciousness fighting for control of his body. Countless will-o-wisps filled his body and swam in his meridians, making it difficult for him to even move his fingers. You want to possess me with just you? However, Jiang Tian didn't panic at all, and his face revealed a look of ridicule. He was deliberately letting go to test Ghost Emperor Mang Mountain's strength. Otherwise, with Jiang Tian's powerful consciousness and mental strength, how could he have the chance to enter his body? Hearing Jiang Tian's words, Ghost Emperor Mang Mountain's soul, which had already entered Jiang Tian's sea of consciousness, laughed loudly. This old man has been cultivating the Yin Phosphorus Absolute Fiend soul seizing technique for more than 1,000 years. I can even devour the soul of a golden core cultivator. How can you, a mere foundation establishment weakling, be my match? However, before he finished speaking, he felt a tremor in his sea of consciousness. The earth and mountains shook, and then a black demon god, as tall as a mountain, walked over. Against the backdrop of this black divine soul, he felt as weak as an ant or a speck of dust. Soul Devourer. Old Ghost Wang of Hejian was an old ghost of the Han dynasty. He had lived for more than 2,000 years, and he was knowledgeable and experienced. 1,000 years ago, he had met someone who had the divine sense of a soul devourer by chance. Even if that person wasn't a cultivator and was just an ordinary person who didn't cultivate, he was almost devoured by the soul devourer. This soul devourer was originally an inexplicable mysterious object in the universe. It could devour all mental strength and souls, and it was extremely heaven-defying. Although his phosphorus absolute fiend soul-seizing technique was powerful, it was still a cultivation technique born in the mortal world, and the difference was too big. My life is over. At this moment, old Ghost Wang of Hejian couldn't help but break out in a cold sweat. He didn't dare to seize Jiang Tian's body anymore. He turned into a mass of green phosphorescent light and flew away quickly. Where do you think you're going? The soul devourer demon god roared and turned into a mountain-like demon god. He opened his mouth and sucked. At least 1/3 of the phosphorus was absorbed like a whale sucking water. Old Ghost Wang of Hejian was heartbroken. This meant that his cultivation and lifespan were reduced by 1/3. Hundreds of years of cultivation were wasted. But compared to the heartbreak, he was more frightened. Without saying anything, he jumped out of Jiang Tian's 7 orifices. Then, he rolled close to the ground and got into the golden python robe. The phosphorescent body expanded and turned into the image of the ghost emperor of Mount Mang, wearing a crown and a python robe, with a green face and fangs. It was just that his body was one size smaller, like a little kid wearing an adult's clothes. It looked very funny. We're at a disadvantage. Seeing this, the ghosts were shocked and couldn't believe it. Yama King of Fengdu's face was already pale, but now it was even paler. Kang Te-chu, you have a soul devourer. Ghost Emperor of Mount Mang's face was full of resentment and resentment. You have a special body and talent. What kind of ability is that? If you don't use your soul devourer, you won't be able to beat me in Dharma spells and divine powers. You're courting death. Jiang Tian's face was filled with mockery. I have 100 ways to make you wish you were dead. You can't even beat my disciple or my pet, not to mention me. You've gone too far. How dare you? Kid, you don't know your place. Ghost Emperor of Mount Mang, Yama King of Fengdu, Nie Shaoqian of Lanrua Temple and other ghosts were furious. No matter how powerful Kang Te-chu was and how high his status was, Brother Lu of Hejian was the leader of these ghosts. Other than the legendary ghost immortal Chao Chao and Grand Magus Bai Qi, Ghost Emperor of Mount Mang was the most powerful among the thousands of ghost cultivators. He had even killed a golden core cultivator before. But you said that you can't even beat your disciple and your cat. Aren't you being a bully? Fine. I'll lower myself to fight with your disciple. The Ghost Emperor of Mount Mang was not one to lose. He pointed at the Reverend Hong Yi and bellowed. If this old man wins, then this old man won't hold a grudge against you for sneak attacking me. As long as you withdraw from Mount Mang, then from now on, we'll mind our own business. You go your way, and I'll go mine. Good. Jiang Tian nodded with a smile. He made concessions again and again because he wanted to beat you until you were convinced and speechless. Only then would you be loyal to him in the future. You're just a kid. How dare you call yourself an old man in front of the sect leader of the 3 realms? Perfected Hongye was furious and took a step forward. This Ghost Emperor of Mount Mang really knew how to flatter himself. He was extremely shameless. When did my master sneak attack me? Do I have to tell you that I have a soul devourer before the battle to not count as a sneak attack? Even you dare to bully me. You're courting death. Ghost Emperor of Mount Mang roared and turned into green flames. When he condensed again, he had already crossed a few kilometers and turned into the image of a ghost emperor with a green face and fangs. He arrived in front of perfected Hongye. His red hair fluttered in the wind and his face was ferocious. He raised his hand and grabbed. The smell of blood filled the air and a phosphorescent flame shot out from his palm. This was the 9 nether green phosphorescent flame that he had cultivated for 100 years. It could take away one's life and shatter one's soul. Even a golden core cultivator would find it difficult to resist. He could see that perfected Hongye was only at the foundation establishment level. Once he used this claw, he would definitely die. He couldn't help but be confident that he would succeed. Fire Jade Ghost Annihilation, kill. Unexpectedly, perfected Hongye waved his hand. A red light suddenly shone in a 10-mile radius. It was as if a sun had appeared out of nowhere. The Yin Qi and the eerie ghost Qi were all swept away. A red jade the size of a copper coin suddenly appeared in perfected Hongye's hand. Waves of heat rolled and flames surrounded it. What is this? It's even more terrifying than the fire jade of Kuan. Ghost Emperor of Mount Mang felt as if he was being fried in oil. The phosphorescent flame around his body collapsed bit by bit. He couldn't help but turn pale with fright. 1,000 years ago, when his cultivation was still low and he had just cultivated the body of a ghost emperor, a sect master of the Maoshan sect came to him with the fire jade of Kuan. The jade talisman of earth and earth fire was of great origin. It was carved from a piece of 10,000-year-old fire jade that the Maoshan sect master had found in the Turpan basin at western border. The talisman was imbued with the power of pure yang, and the talisman was meticulously crafted over 2 cycles of life essence. It was incredibly powerful, yet the Maoshan sect master was still able to break the talisman with all sorts of spells and powers and kill the Maoshan sect master. But he didn't know. The fire jade of Hongye was a treasure of heaven and earth that Hui Yan in the West Earth offered to Jiang Tian. It was excavated from the scorched desert and formed the fire lotus earth fire. That was one of the 12 most powerful earth elemental fire in the world, and it was carefully carved by Jiang Tian. How could Ghost Emperor of Mount Mang resist it? Ouch! Ouch! Ghost Emperor of Mount Mang couldn't bear it. He screamed and used the 13 ghostly steps to retreat as fast as lightning. He steadied himself again and saw that every part of his body that was intact, including his right arm, had been completely burned away. You son of a bitch, you only know how to use Dharma treasures. What kind of skill is that? If you fight with your real strength, you may not be able to defeat me. He used a secret technique to reconstruct his phosphorescent flame body while he cursed and found a way out for himself. Shameless bastard, let's fight another 300 rounds after I recover my body. However, he had used up too much of his Yin phosphorus. His body was already too small, and the oversized golden python robe could no longer support him. With a crash, it fell to the ground, revealing his naked body. The crown also fell to his neck like a necklace. Can someone give me a piece of clothing? Ghost Emperor of Mount Mang half squatted and covered his crotch. He was flustered and wanted to cry but had no tears. He was extremely embarrassed. Chapter 1231. Ghost King. A ghost general did not know whether to laugh or cry. He stepped forward with some sympathy and offered the clothes. Ghost Emperor Mang Mountain quickly put it on. Jiang Tian sneered and said, "Are you still not convinced? If we fight again, you won't even be able to wear this little shirt." "I'm not convinced." "Why should I be so easily convinced by you? Who do you think you are?" Ghost King Mang Mountain was ashamed and knew that he was no match for Su Quebec. However, this involved the fate of the ghost cultivators for thousands of years. How could he admit defeat so easily? He was exasperated and speechless. After a long while, he suddenly raised his hand and pointed at the red kitten in Hong Ye's arms and said, "This is the last round. In the last round, if this old man can't defeat your cat, this old man will completely submit to you and follow your orders. When the war breaks out in the future, I will gather and protect the heroic souls of the soldiers for you." I will work myself to death without hesitation. This kitten was actually the divine soul of Lei Meng left behind after Jiang Tian swallowed the demonic core and blood qi. Previously, he had the combat power of the nascent soul stage. During this period of time, Jiang Tian had fed him the supreme elixirs of thunder wood and heaven thunder bamboo. He could already condense a physical body and turn into a kitten. At this time, he had reconstructed his physical body and was gifted with the ability to spit out thunder and lightning. In addition, he had comprehended Jiang Tian's law of thunder and lightning. His strength was no less than a perfected golden core immortal. Ghost King Mang Mountain wanted to pick a soft persimmon, but he didn't know. This seemingly harmless Lei Meng's strength was probably second only to Jiang Tian and the 4 nascent soul stage old monsters. He was several times more powerful than Hong Yi, Yi Tianren, and Sita Shao. My wise and handsome lord, is it time for me to make a move? Lei Meng stretched his body and jumped down, smiling at Jiang Tian with a flattering look on his face. His expression was vivid and lively. Wait, fellow Taoist Grand Primordium. We can have a good chat. Seeing this, Ghost King Mang Mountain's heart skipped a beat. He felt a little uneasy. Are you qualified to chat with my master? Who do you think you are? But before he could react, the kitten had already leaped out as fast as lightning. Lei Meng pounced on Ghost Emperor Mount Mang, spewing out bolts of lightning that sent him flying hundreds of meters away. Half of his body was blasted apart. Seeing this, the entire place was dead silent. Everyone was flabbergasted. Under such a crushing situation, if they still didn't submit, they would probably all be reduced to ashes. Surrender, I surrender. Ghost Emperor Mount Mang crawled to his feet and bowed deeply to Jiang Tian. He kowtowed as if he was pounding garlic. If he continued to kowtow, he really wouldn't have any more suitable clothes. Jiang Tian revealed a faint smile and nodded. Okay, I will go first. Little devil, wait for me at the Ame Taoist sect. Then, it turned into a streak of light that pierced through the sky and disappeared. In the Whitehead Mountain Dragon Pond, the water was clear, reflecting the blue sky and white clouds. In a huge cave hundreds of meters under the water, a chilly wind blew, and a fishy smell filled the air. The human oil lamp emitted a dim light. Around the table and chairs made of human bones, faint blue phosphorescence floated. An old monster with a dragon head and a human body that was 2,000 years old sat on a giant throne made of countless skeletons and skulls. He was having a secret discussion with a few old demons. Demon Emperor, it seems that Kang Te Chu is just as the famous Preaching sect said. He is only at the 3rd level of the Foundation establishment stage. After being bullied to this extent, he still doesn't dare to come out. It seems that the title of the world's strongest warrior should be changed. The white immortal hedgehog demon said with a face full of disdain. However, the recovery of the spiritual qi is greatly beneficial to us. I think that we should support Kang Te Chu. Now that we have established our power, we should be able to gain a place in the Myth Alliance. A beautiful woman in palace attire said softly. Her eyes twinkled as she revealed an enchanting smile. She was the willow deity, the snake demon that had lived under Qin Chin Mountain for hundreds of years. She was also a golden core cultivator. Do you think that Kang Te Chu will stop the recovery of the spiritual qi if we don't join the Myth Alliance? The yellow immortal was a skinny old man in ragged clothes. He looked like the most common mountain people in the northeast. He squatted on a white birch tree stump, drank a mouthful of extremely strong homemade soju, and smoked a mouthful of extremely choking toad tobacco. A sinister smile that did not match his attire appeared on his face as he laughed. He smiled and said, if we sign the alliance contract, we will be controlled by Kang Te Chu in the future. I think we should not sign it and not join. The old demons kept arguing about this matter. They were so anxious that their faces turned red and their saliva was flying everywhere. Suddenly, the demon emperor Flood Dragon Spirit in the sky spoke with a thunderous voice. Of course not. Who is Kang Te Chu? How dare he order me around? I'm just teaching him a lesson. If he dares to do it again, I will tear him to pieces. The demon emperor is wise. That's right, once the spiritual chi recovers. Then our cultivation will improve by leaps and bounds, and Kang Tae-chu won't be able to catch up with us. When the time comes, our demon emperor will replace him and snatch the training ground of Tianqing School, becoming the leader of the Myth Alliance. The old demons immediately understood and their eyes lit up. They were excited and started to flatter him. The demon emperor is wise. Long live Kang Tae-chu, go to hell. The demon emperor is the most respected in the mortal world. We can also be conferred the title of Marquis and enjoy wealth and prestige. Many small demons also cheered excitedly when they heard the news. You can tear my lord to pieces in minutes. How arrogant of you. At this moment, a cold voice was suddenly heard. It was Lotus, Old Rulai, and Jiang Tian who had arrived. Jiang Tian crossed the Eurasian continent and spread his wings of wind and thunder. His speed was as fast as lightning, and it only took him a few hours to circle the earth. Jiang Tian was the fastest and went to Mount Mang to suppress the Ghost Emperor. He also ordered Elder True Dragon, Old Monster Mingi, and Elder Takong to rush to Mount Amei to provide support or suppress the famous Pre-Qin sections. Lotus, on the other hand, rushed to the dragon pool of Mount Changbai. Lotus was one step ahead, and Jiang Tian only rushed over after suppressing the Ghost Emperor of Mount Mang. However, Jiang Tian's speed was too heaven-defying, and he still managed to catch up. Kang Tae-chu, you little brat is here. Come down and fight with me for 300 rounds. The demon emperor roared. A mere flood dragon spirit that hasn't completely transformed is qualified to fight with me for 300 rounds? You really know how to flatter yourself. Jiang Tian's face was filled with cold mockery as he said in disdain. Looks like you have cultivated for 1,000 years to reach your current cultivation. It's not easy. I'll give you a minute to consider. Submit to me and expose the hypocritical face of the famous Pre-Qin sects, and I'll spare your life. Otherwise, die. Bah! Who do you think you are? How dare you spout nonsense in front of our demon emperor? How arrogant! If you don't scram, I'll kill you first. Zhang Tianya rushed out of the water with an arrogant face full of disdain as he roared. He originally had the cultivation of the early stage of foundation establishment and had defeated Zhao Yuankuan who had sent him a message. He thought that Jiang Tian was only at the early stage of foundation establishment, so he didn't put Jiang Tian in his eyes. How dare you humiliate my master, your crime is unforgivable. Lotus's face darkened as he executed Vajra Unbeatable. He slapped down with his palm, and the huge palm with resplendent Buddha light came crashing down like Mount Tai. What? In that instant, Zhang Tianya was so shocked that his face turned pale, and he wanted to retreat. He had never thought that the old man behind Jiang Tian would be so powerful. Just the wind from the palm created a huge wave that was 10 meters tall. The ground and mountains within a radius of 10 miles shook, and all the bones in his body were crushed. No. However, he was too far away from Lotus. He was frozen in place by the huge Dharma power and couldn't take a step back. Smack! Zhang Tianya didn't even last a second before he exploded like a firecracker. His bones were crushed into powder, and his organs and blood turned into ashes. Oh my God! This monk's strength is so terrifying. Should we run or surrender? Willow Immortal by Sujuan scanned with her divine senses and was so shocked that her face turned pale. Her full breasts rose and fell violently. She was a golden core expert after all, so she naturally had good eyesight. She could tell that Lotus's cultivation was far beyond that of a golden core expert. How is this possible? Why couldn't the immortal trap formation suppress this monk? White Immortal Hedgehog Demon was so scared that the spikes on his body pierced through his clothes and stood up straight, trembling. If we fight together, we may have a chance of winning. No, we have to divide our forces in different places. The Yellow Skin Demon was so scared that his pipe fell to the ground. Cold sweat poured down his forehead like a waterfall, and he kept drinking to boost his courage. The Dragon Demon King shouted angrily, "Why are you afraid of him? He dared to kill my disciple, so I will kill him. When I get out of the dragon cave, I will fight with him for 300 rounds." Before he could rush out, he heard Lianxing shouting coldly from outside, "1 minute is up. Go to hell." Before he finished his words, the originally calm lake surged with huge white waves that were hundreds of meters high. The hurricane roared, and the towering trees that were dozens of meters tall around the dragon lake were blown to the outside and broke. The ground shook crazily like the beating of a drum, and the stones that were the size of millstones rolled on the ground. The mountains shook violently as if they were about to collapse. In the center of the dragon lake, there was a huge footprint with a radius of 100 meters. The surrounding water couldn't flow in, and the footprint was so deep that even the bottom of the lake that was dozens of meters deep was exposed. And there were already huge mushroom clouds in the sky. This foot affected the area within 100 miles. Half of the Changbai mountain was shaking violently, as if there was a huge earthquake. "Oh no! Run!" The dragon demon of the Changbai mountain looked up with deep fear on his face. The other demons were also shocked and wanted to run away. But they found out in despair. They were locked in place by a vast aura. Not to mention running away, they couldn't even move their little fingers. Clang! A giant foot wearing straw sandals pierced through the clouds and descended from the sky. It stepped directly on top of the dragon cave, directly crushing the cave that could withstand nuclear weapons and was not afraid of a salvo of missiles. Suddenly, huge waves surged out, more terrifying than hurricanes and tsunamis. The dragon lake that was thousands of meters in radius was completely dried up. Wherever he stepped on, countless rocks and mud would fly in all directions, forming a huge funnel-shaped crater with a radius of 100 meters. The crater continued to expand, and then the entire dragon pond within a radius of a few miles collapsed. This foot was extremely powerful and it didn't lose its momentum. It continued to move downwards, penetrating the hard rocks a few hundred meters deep and crushing the roof of the cave. The foot then stepped on the dragon demon's head. The white bone chair and the altar under the monster emperor exploded and turned into powder. Half of his head almost exploded from the stomp. Blood dripped from his head as he sank 10 meters into the ground before he finally stopped. Chapter 1232. Stop, 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 I surrender. The flood dragon demon emperor howled miserably and grimaced in pain. His eyes were filled with fear as he stared at the shriveled monk. He slapped the ground and shouted. This kick was too ferocious and powerful. He felt that his skull would explode in a second. You scared me to death. Please spare my life, Taoist friend Tai Chu, please spare my life. We surrender. On the side, the hedgehog demon was so scared that he revealed his true form and shrunk to the size of a palm. Gia. The fox demon was so scared that his eyes turned white and he fainted. His crotch was dripping with blood and smelly. Puff puff puff. The weasel crawled on the ground and drank wine to boost his courage. However, he still raised his butt and farted. Stinky yellow smoke filled the air. I told you, we can't beat him. Willow Deity by Sujuan was also trembling with a pale face. Do you really surrender? Didn't you want to fight for 300 rounds? Lian Xing kicked him a few hundred meters away. He looked down at the flood dragon demon emperor as if he was looking at an ant and asked coldly. I really surrender. I'm convinced. 300 rounds, are you kidding me? I can't even last one round. The flood dragon demon emperor was in so much pain that he vomited blood. He wanted to cry but had no tears. He was going to die before he won the battle. This old monk was too powerful. He was like a bug under his feet that could be crushed at any time. Damn you, the famous pre-Qin sects, you tricked me. Yu Jingtian, you're full of nonsense. What happened to the third level of the foundation establishment stage? Even one of Kang Techu's servants is not only at the golden core stage. You tricked me. A little dragon dares to jump around. Go to the Ame Daoist sect immediately and kowtow to the Tai Chu sect master. Sign the contract of the mythical alliance. Lian Xing soared into the sky again and said with disdain. Today, the famous preaching sects have gathered to attack the Ame Daoist sect. I hope you all come so that I can kill you all at once. Jiang Tian did not even look at the flood dragon demon emperor. He had already turned around and flew toward Mount Ame. During this period of time, Yu Jingtian could be said to be proud and elated. He swept through Kang Teichu's 4 dojos in Huaxia like a hot knife through butter, establishing an illustrious reputation for himself. Almost half of Huaxia's itinerant cultivators had submitted to him. Now, he's watching my live stream. The number of fans in my live stream has already exceeded 1 billion, and the number of fans in the media has also exceeded 500 million. A casual post would have tens of thousands or even hundreds of thousands of followers. When he woke up in the morning and greeted his fans in the live stream, thousands of girls would scream. On the other hand, Tianqing School only had a few 100 million fans, and they didn't make any big moves. The difference between them was obvious. No wonder Kang Teichu likes to swagger through the streets. It turns out that he enjoys the feeling of being admired by thousands of people. It's really, really good. In the luxurious office of the Preqin building, Yu Jingtian, who was dressed handsomely, was fiddling with his phone with a satisfied smile on his face. The Preqin famed sect was known as the Nameless Sect. They rarely left the mountains and were much more mysterious than the Kunlun sect. Many people did not even know of their existence. Yu Jingtian, like most of the descendants of the famed sects, kept a low profile. The first 30 years of his life were boring and monotonous. Other than cultivation, there was nothing else. Perhaps he had spent too much time in a life where no one paid attention to him. Now, he really enjoyed the feeling of being watched. Therefore, when Zhang Yilin sent the staff of my live stream platform to sign the contract, he immediately agreed. Big brother, you look so cool today. The live stream is about to start. Yu Fenghua walked over and reminded him gently. Are the famed sects of Yin Shang and Dezhou ready? Yu Jingtian asked. They're already on their way to Mount Ame. Yu Fenghua replied. If we take down this dojo today, all of Kang Teichu's dojos in Huaxia will be ours. Next, we can take down Sidoni's dojo. Yu Jingtian smiled coldly. He was determined to get it. I think we should be careful about this matter. Although Kang Teichu is not a threat, we still need to be vigilant about their Coelian system. Yu Fenghua reminded him. I don't care what you think, I want what I think. Yu Jingtian snorted as if he was possessed by a domineering CEO. If those Coelian want to kill us, they will also implicate the civilians. Do you think they would dare to release us on their land? I'm going to take down all of Kang Teichu's dojos. I'll say it again, take down all of them. Don't ask me how many, I mean all of them. Do you understand? I mean all of them. Yes. Yu Fenghua did not dare to refute. Soon, the live stream started. There were professional makeup, photography, and special effects teams. As soon as Yu Jingtian appeared, many comments popped up. Young Master Yu is the most handsome. Young Master Yu is the best. Facing the camera, Yu Jingtian spoke with confidence and assurance. Hello, everyone. According to the plan we announced earlier, today, we will attack the Ame Daoist sect. Everyone is welcome to watch. Finally, we are going to attack the Ame Daoist sect. I'm already at the West River, I'll be there soon. I'm also here. I've been waiting for a long time. One after another, fans flooded the bullet screen with gifts. Young Master Yu, what do you think are our chances of winning this time? A fan asked. Do you still need to ask? This question is too stupid. We have already swept the Wudang Daoist sect and the other 3 dojos. Is there any doubt about the Ame Daoist sect? 100%. Yu Jingtian sneered and said with a face full of disdain. Bet on the Pre-Qin dynasty. We will win for sure. Everyone flooded the bullet screen with gifts. They were extremely excited. Betting with the Pre-Qin dynasty was like picking up money. Do you think Kang Taechu will come out this time? The cute girl and Yu Jingtian chatted with each other on the mic. She stroked her hair coquettishly to express her admiration. Normally, he wouldn't dare. Or else, when I swept the first 4 dojos, he should have come out. Clearly, he is scared of me. Yu Jingtian raised the corner of his mouth and sneered with an evil charm and arrogance. He snorted and said, but, what does it matter if he comes out or not? In my eyes, he is just a chicken and a pottery dog. I can kill him with a raise of my hand. Even if he doesn't come out, I will kill my way to Tianqing School. Sooner or later, he will die in my hands. So cool. So domineering. My idol. Yu Jingtian, I am willing to give birth to 12 children for you. Blow up Kang Taechu's head. How dare he challenge our young master Yu? As soon as these words came out, countless female fans went crazy. They reposted the video on their Weibo friends circle. In an instant, it spread all over Huaxia and the world. In their eyes, Jiang Tian was more aloof. He never appeared on camera or interacted with them. He did not appear on camera for such a big event like the spiritual Qi revival. He only sent a letter. Yu Jingtian was more approachable. Moreover, Jiang Tian was too ruthless. He often sent out war cries and mobilized the entire nation to declare war on the ruins of immortality. Where was the ruins of immortality? Why did they have to fight? Wouldn't it be better for everyone to live in peace? Hehe, why would Kang Taechu be afraid of Yu Jingtian? Isn't he afraid of losing his tongue? As a die-hard fan of Jiang Tian, Big Saber brother Zhang Shisan was so angry that his hands trembled when he saw the video. He immediately posted on Weibo and mocked. He is a hero who swept across the 3 realms. When Kang Taechu swept across the 3 realms and fought for Earth, where was Yu Jingtian? He used to be famous on many forums in the dark world. He even risked his life in the United States to secretly take photos of the battle between Jiang Tian and the Universe Shield and Superbrain Man. He had many fans. When the dimensional world descended and the strong cultivators on Earth began to emerge on a large scale, he followed the trend and registered on Weibo. He became a big V and a spiteful person with millions of fans. He was also an internet celebrity. Ignorant. It is Kang Taechu who brought disaster to Earth by recklessly attacking the dimensional world and its forces on Earth. How is Yu Jingtian not a match for him? Now that Yu Jingtian has swept across 4 of his dojos, he should not hold his nose and endure it. If he can't, he can't. The famous Pre-Qin sect, the origin of thousands of Dharma, and the orthodox Xian men. Kang Taechu is just an unorthodox cultivator. He is just an ant. One is in heaven, the other is on earth. However, Zhang Shisan's post was immediately drowned by the crowd's mockery. Countless fans and the internet water army attacked and scolded him. In fact, Jiang Tian's supporters were drowned by the internet water army as soon as they spoke. Almost 90% of the people on the internet thought that Jiang Tian and the Tianqing school were no match for Yu Jingtian and the famous Pre-Qin sect. Kunlun sect. The spiritual qi was abundant like smoke and fog. Thousands of old cypresses covered the mountain with rain. Tens of thousands of branches of the Huang family were covered in smoke. There were exotic flowers and brocade, and the fragrance of orchids and jade grass by the bridge. There were peaches growing on the ridge, and long grass growing at the entrance of the cave. Sometimes, the cries of cranes could be heard. Sometimes, the cries of auspicious birds could be heard. Sometimes, the cries of auspicious birds could be heard. The white deer and the old ape walked under the elixir cliff. They did not avoid passers-by. They were full of vitality and a wild aura was surging. This place was worthy of being called the top sect in the world. Although it was not as good as the Tianqing school, it was not far behind. The Kunlun sect was a small dimensional world. It was more appropriate to call it a small world or a blessed land. The boundary between the Kunlun sect and the Earth was not so strict. It was only 1,000 miles away from the Earth and was still within the range of the Earth's magnetic field. On the 8 trigrams platform beside the Qilin Cliff, in the Jade Void Palace's ancestral hall. Just as I expected, the famous Pre-Qin clans have jumped up. Looking at the arrogant Yu Jingtian who was determined to win, Li Wuji looked on coldly and sneered in his heart. The Qi practitioners of the Pre-Qin sect were indeed powerful. They had a lot of connections with the ancient true gods. Their ancestors had even experienced the battle of the deities and the battle of the gods. Their cultivation arts were pure and profound. They were the origin of many sects in Huaxia. Their martial arts and dharma spells were derived from the Pre-Qin sect. Their strength was comparable to that of the Star World. They were countless times more powerful than the ancient Wudang sect, the Ame sect and the Heavenly Master sect of Dragon Tiger Mountain. They were even stronger than the Brahmin and the Holy See. That was why some sects in Huaxia were betting on them. They helped them establish the Pre-Qin Research Institute and wanted to dominate Huaxia and conquer the world in this era of great changes. But you don't know the real strength of Kang Taechu. He's not just a third-level foundation establishment cultivator. He's a fake core cultivator and a nascent soul cultivator. He's not as simple as conquering the 3 worlds. He's already defeated Ancestral Patriarch True Dragon and Ancestral Patriarch Takong in the 3rd-level dimensional world. Those people are all experienced nascent soul cultivators. Any one of them can conquer the earth and become a divine Ancestral Patriarch. Even if you're the old monsters in the famous sects, you're only a few perfected golden core overlords. How can you be qualified to challenge Kang Taechu? Chapter 1233. These Pre-Qin Qi practitioners didn't know that Jiang Tian had the thick earth god-suppressing chain that could suppress his power and prevent him from touching the heaven and earth cage. They thought that Jiang Tian was only at the 3rd level of the foundation establishment level. It was like hitting a rock with an egg. Grandmaster, I've just received news that Kang Taechu has subdued the Ghost Emperor of Mount Mang and the Demon Emperor of Dragon Pool. A shadow flashed at the door. Yi Karen walked in and reported with a bow. Has the news spread outside? Li Wuji asked. Strange phenomena have occurred in those places recently. Ordinary people don't dare to go near them, so no one has seen it. But Kang Taechu did bring the media there. It's just that the media hasn't reported anything yet. Yi Karen said. Kang Taechu doesn't want to alert the enemy. He'll release the news after subduing the Pre-Qin sects. By then, the Pre-Qin sects will have interesting expressions. Li Wuji chuckled. Then, should we warn the Pre-Qin sects? After all, they're no match for him. Yi Karen asked. There's no need to warn them. Li Wuji shook his head and smiled bitterly. Or rather, it's useless to warn them. This is the era of great competition, which involves thousands or even tens of thousands of years of competition. If Jiang Taechu doesn't beat them until their heads are drenched in blood, they won't come to their senses and willingly submit to him. Suddenly, a cold light flashed in his eyes. The Kunlun sect will definitely follow Kang Taechu. If the Pre-Qin Qi refinement clans immediately submit to Kang Taechu, the Kunlun sect won't have a chance in the future. After all, he now has 4 nascent soul cultivators, 2 guardians, and 3 giants. He has a lot of talents. It's best if Kang Taechu annihilates all the Pre-Qin clans. Then, there will only be a few Pre-Qin Qi refinement clans left. The Kunlun sect will at least become an important ally of Kang Taechu on Earth. After all, he still needs to conquer the Sea of Stars. Yi Karen stood on the side, speechless. Go to the Ame Daoist sect and stop the Pre-Qin clans with the identity of the Guardians Alliance. That's our attitude. Li Wuji suddenly said after a moment of silence. Yes. Yi Karen nodded. He stepped into the air and turned into a long rainbow that pierced through the sky. As for the Tianqing sect, they had already used military transport planes to transport the many spirit guiding arrays and spirit creation wells to the various dojos of the Tianqing sect in China and the Kunlun sect. Huang Linger was originally in charge of the Amei Daoist right branch. In addition, Situ Shao was in charge. Now, Chao Shixiang and Chao Jianjia were both here as military representatives. Now, inside a valley, countless engineering soldiers were busy like ants. Red Leaf and Zhang Qinzhen were on the side giving orders. Military helicopters took off and landed, military vehicles sped along. A giant spirit guiding formation had already been installed. It was made up of countless formation components. The Dao patterns were densely packed and extremely complicated. Looking down from the sky, it looked like a giant well platform. It had a radius of 1 kilometer and occupied a square behind the Amei mountain. The spirit-making well embedded inside was even more complicated and exquisite. The complex formation patterns were like a circuit board, densely packed and intertwined with each other. However, this was only the part above ground. The part deep underground was even bigger. It was a few thousand meters deep and could pierce through a mountain. Senior Situ, do you think Yu Jingtian will really come? A trace of nervousness appeared on Chao Jianjia's face. Now, Yu Jingtian had swept through the other 4 Daoist sects like a hot knife through butter. Only the Amei Daoist sect was left. For sure. A trace of seriousness emerged on Situ Zhao's face as he gave a deep sigh. This was a world of great strife. If Jiang Tian succeeded in reviving the spiritual qi, he would have made a great contribution. In the future, the Preqin family would have to bow down to Jiang Tian. They could not accept this. In fact, it was not important whether Jiang Tian had revived the spiritual qi or not. The key was that Jiang Tian had threatened their interests. Chao Jianjia's heart sank. She looked at Chao Shixiang and said angrily, "Grandpa, are the government and the military not going to do anything? Are we going to let them do whatever they want? Yu Jingtian is fighting among himself for his own interests. He is distorting right and wrong and slandering others." "Ah, you don't know." Chao Shixiang seemed to have aged 10 years instantly. His white hair trembled in the wind. He revealed a sorrowful expression and said, "Now, many of the higher-ups are standing on the side of the Preqin family. After all, they are also not ordinary. These people are at a high level. Even I can't do anything about it." Some words could no longer be said. The level of the people involved was too high. If word got out, the world would be in chaos. At present, the new and old forces had reached an agreement. No one was allowed to use the power of the secular world. The Preqin families and the Tianqing school were allowed to fight. But we can't let so many ordinary people come and watch. Chao Jianjia said angrily as she scanned the crowd on the surrounding mountains. Tens of thousands of people had gathered at the scene. They were all holding mobile phones and video cameras. They were broadcasting the scene live. Netizens all over the world could see it through their live streaming channels. One should know that this place was comparable to a military restricted zone. It was even more important than a normal military restricted zone. How could they let people in? But among the higher-ups, someone had given the order to allow ordinary people to enter and watch. That was because the back of Mount Amei was also part of Huaxia's territory. It did not belong to Kang Teichu alone. This was a subtle indication of the higher-ups' attitude. That was because these dojos were equipped with small Kuelian guns. If there were no ordinary people watching, the Tianqing school could use the Kuelian guns to shoot down the Preqin families. But now, their hands were tied, and they were afraid to shoot the rat for fear of breaking the vases. There are a few old men who are full of evil intentions and ambition. They want the whole world to see Jiang Tian and the Tianqing school fall into disgrace. That's the only way to let the Preqin family surpass them. Chao Shixiang sighed helplessly with a hint of worry on his face. Jiang Tian was indeed patriotic and had done a lot of good deeds for Huaxia. But he was also proud and unyielding. He was unwilling to bow his head, and fawn over the rich and powerful. He even looked down on many rich and powerful people and spoke bluntly. This made some of the higher-ups think that Jiang Tian was too unruly and difficult to control and get along with. But Yu Jingtian was much more flexible than Jiang Tian. He could be big or small, high or low. He gave a lot of guarantees. The higher-ups liked him very much and gave him strong support. Currently, Special Envoy Shen, who had a close relationship with Jiang Tian, had been demoted and retired due to illness. On Jiang Tian's grandfather's side, Zhang Jinghua's family was also implicated. Zhang Zhonghua had been arrested, and the higher-ups were looking for evidence of his illegal activities. Even the Tang family in Lingnan was affected. Even Chao Shixiang was summoned for a talk. He had been relieved of all his duties. Now, he was just an external consultant. It could be said that Jiang Tian's influence in the domestic political scene was on the verge of collapse. The higher-ups were extremely unfavorable to Jiang Tian. Of course, behind all this was the power of the Pre-Qin Research Institute. It was obvious that the Pre-Qin Research Institute had infiltrated the higher-ups. Chao Shixiang, you are very ignorant. Now, what do you mean that we, the Pre-Qin family, have surpassed them? We, the Pre-Qin family, have always been high and mighty. Kang Te Chu is just an ant crawling under our feet. A voice full of mockery rang out from the clouds in the sky like a great bell. Who is it? Everyone's face changed color. They looked up and frowned. In the clouds, a man stood with his hands behind his back. His long robe fluttered in the wind and his black hair flowed like a waterfall. He exuded a faint divine aura as if a real god had descended. He stepped on a bronze cauldron the size of a small hill and rose into the sky like a comet shooting toward the earth. Yu Jingtian. Hua Qingtian was shocked when he saw this. He's here so soon. Chao Shixiang's face turned solemn as he trembled uneasily. Chao Jianjia was forced to retreat by the violent aura. Before he arrived, a terrifying aura had already swept toward them. Kacha Kacha. The giant cauldron had 2 legs and 3 handles. It was simple and unadorned. There were carvings of Taowu, Taotai, winged dragon, vermilion bird, black tortoise, and other mythical beasts. The colorful glow enveloped Yu Jingtian, making him look like an immortal. The dermic power of the giant cauldron was extremely terrifying. It covered a radius of dozens of miles like a tsunami. Everywhere it passed, it was like a great earthquake had erupted, causing the ground to tremble and crack while numerous mountains collapsed miserably and were razed to the ground. This cauldron is so powerful. Situ Shao stared at the bronze cauldron and exclaimed. Is this one of the 9 cauldrons made by Yu the Great at the Tushan conference? Yu the Great's 9 cauldrons were the most powerful Dharma treasures of the Great Xia dynasty. They could melt and suppress everything. One cauldron could break 10,000 spells, suppress mountains and rivers, and suppress an entire state. Its power was even more powerful than many Dharma treasures in the Divine Investiture War. As for the Qing Suo sword that Situ Shao had used, it was only a treasure from the Middle Ages. It was on a completely different level compared to Yu the Great's 9 cauldrons. Huang Linger, Chao Shixiang and Chao Jianjia looked serious as if they were about to face a powerful enemy. What was going to happen had finally happened. Don't be afraid. Ancestral Patriarch True Dragon had just arrived. He was trembling and his eyes were cloudy like a servant. He stood behind Huang Linger with the black dog in his arms and shook his head with a mocking smile. This cauldron is only a few hundred years old. It can't be from the Pre-Qin era. It's probably a replica. Ancestral Patriarch True Dragon was also a flood dragon. He had given himself this name just to make himself look good. But the old dragon was a purple gold True Dragon. The True Dragon Patriarch knew that in time, the old dragon's future would be limitless. Therefore, he tried his best to please him these days. He called him brother and fed him with elixirs every day. He even promised that when he went to the Dragon Gate or the ruins of immortality, he would be the matchmaker for the old dragon and find a beautiful flood dragon wife. This made the old dragon restless. Mr. Yu is so cool. He's my idol. Countless people in the crowd looked up and cheered excitedly. He's so cool. He's so powerful. He's really like an immortal. The female fans, in particular, were screaming hysterically. They were so excited that they almost fainted. The world was about to change on the eve of the spirit chi recovery, and overlords were all out to determine their positions. The ones who attracted the most attention and had the most fans were no longer celebrities, but martial arts overlords and strange people. Their every move affected people's hearts. Blow up Kang Taechu's head. Among the crowd, a tall and beautiful woman looked at Yu Jingtian with admiration. She was so excited that her whole body was trembling. She raised her arms and cheered loudly. Chapter 1234. If Jiang Tian was here, perhaps he would remember this girl. She was Shi Mengwan, who was once engaged to Li Fifan, the son of Li Xianlong, the premier of Singapore. In the beginning, Shi, Shenlu and Zheng Jia were fighting over the hotel for the wedding. She provoked Jiang Tian and spoke arrogantly. Li Fifan tore up the engagement and kicked her out of the house. She was also terminated by Pris and was even banned from the Huaxia entertainment circle. However, Shi Mengwan was an independent modern woman who would never admit defeat. She took a different path and went to Japan to act in a restricted movie. Finally, she became a porn star and captured many otaku fans. This time, when she heard that the Preqin family was going to attack Kang Taechu's Amei Daoist sect, she was so excited that she could not sleep for 3 days and 3 nights. She rushed to Mount Amei to watch Jiang Tian embarrass himself and broadcast it to her fans. In fact, not only her, many people came. Wan Wan, Cutie Lee, Old Morgan, Little Rockefeller, many reclusive royalty and the Dragon Protection family. Those powerhouses and figures who had been attacked by Jiang Tian came to watch. If Kang Taechu dies, we can rely on the Preqin family and take back our assets. In a remote place, Old Morgan looked at the sky with a telescope. A trace of coldness emerged on his old face and his eyes were filled with hatred. His son, Little Morgan, was killed by Jiang Tian. His assets were also taken away. He fell from heaven to hell. However, if he wanted to take revenge, his strength was too weak. He would definitely be able to suppress even the Pentagon and sweep through the various multidimensional worlds. However, the rise of the Preqin family gave him hope for revenge. After all, this was the origin of the Huaxia civilization. The ancient era was the mythical era. The investiture war was even a myth. Only such a family and powerhouse could kill Jiang Tian. Yu Jingtian came with a cauldron. He was the first to gain the upper hand. Hundreds of thousands of people looked at him and the internet was also boiling. Where is Kang Taechu? Come out and face your death. Standing on the giant cauldron in the air, Yu Jingtian looked down at Huang Ling, and the others like they were ants. He shouted. Instantly, his voice reverberated for hundreds of miles. Countless trees collapsed and exploded. Even the mountains seemed to be shaking. At this moment, he could be described as peerless and overwhelming. So strong. As expected of the descendant of great Xia's Yu the Great. His might is peerless, and his aura is like a mountain. With a single roar, he commands the wind and clouds and shakes the mountains and rivers. In the valley, beside the spirit guiding array, Zhu Shaochen and the others were shocked. They shook their heads and sighed. Now, they finally felt a part of Yu Jingtian's strength. He was truly terrifying. Perhaps he was even stronger than Ji Muxian. Although they were the descendants of the reclusive royalty and were the mainstay of the young generation of Huaxia, they were still far inferior to the descendants of the Preqin clan. They were still suppressed by the immortal entrapment grand formation and stopped at the heavenly immortal realm. However, the descendants of the Preqin clan were not affected at all. They could still advance bravely and reach a higher level. This time, the descendant of Preqin Yu the Great is here. Let's see if you, Kang Taechu, can still be arrogant. Li Guangzhe had a gloating smile on his face. Yu Jingtian, what do you mean by this? Huang Linger was enraged. Her face was cold as she soared into the sky. She and Yu Jingtian stood opposite each other. You are Huang Linger, right? Yu Jingtian sneered and said, a gentleman does not fight with a woman. If you hand over the dojo and all the spirit-guiding arrays and leave immediately, I will not kill you. If you want to take the dojo, you will have to step over my dead body. You alone may not be able to defeat my Tianqing school. Huang Linger opposed him with equal harshness and did not back down. What if I join in? At this moment, another ray of yellow light rose from the sky. It was at least 100 miles away. The sound contained ethereal force. It was channeled by a secret technique and was transmitted clearly to everyone's ears. The yellow light was dazzling and the dermic power was strong. Everyone was blinded by it and could not see clearly. This ray of yellow light came extremely fast. It was like a rainbow piercing through the sun. In a few seconds, it was above the array camp. When the yellow light faded, everyone saw a lean young man standing on an apricot yellow flag. The apricot yellow flag. The descendant of Jiang Zia, Jiang Feibai. Situ Xiao exclaimed. His eyes were filled with shock. The Wuji apricot yellow flag was rumored to be a defensive dermic treasure used by Jiang Zia during the investiture of the gods. It was formed from the 5 leaves of the Genesis green lotus and was on par with the Holy Whip. It could protect one's body from all dermic powers. This flag had destroyed the attacks of countless senior almighties. During the investiture of the gods era, it was extremely famous and made people tremble in fear. Not all of Kang Teichu's subordinates are idiots. You know what's good for you. Jiang Feibai glanced at Situ Xiao and then looked at Huang Linger with disdain. We're here to prevent the world from falling into chaos and stop the recovery of spirit qi. Jiang Taichu was obstinate and self-opinionated. For his own personal gain, he acted unscrupulously and revived the spiritual aura. Once spirit qi recovers, monsters will evolve and demons will run rampant. Even alien civilizations may invade and turn Earth into a living hell. Kang Teichu is risking universal condemnation and ignoring the lives of billions of people, but you're helping him. Don't you feel ashamed? Jiang Feibai questioned loudly. He seemed to be in control of the truth and had the moral high ground. He was very confident. We're recovering spirit qi for the evolution of mankind and to resist the invasion of the dimensional worlds. Why do you say it's for our own benefit? After the battle of the heavenly state, Huang Linger was no longer a weak girl. She had quickly grown into a heroine. In the face of rude questioning and censure, her aura was not weak at all. She said tit for tat. As for the danger you mentioned, it does exist. However, my Tianqing sect has already publicized the cultivation techniques. These cultivation techniques can only be cultivated by humans, and they will elevate humans to their limits. Do you think that the spirits of all living beings cannot defeat a few beasts? Besides, the Tianqing school and many of its companies and entities have donated trillions of assets to build shelters and fortifications around the world. What have you done for the sake of the human race? Idiot woman. At this moment, Ji Mai's figure resembled a dragon as he swung a huge huang chang in the air and shouted coldly. We stopped you from recovering spirit qi blindly, saved the world, and saved thousands of people from hanging upside down. That's a great merit. Don't you see that there are billions of people around the world, but only a few 100 million support you? Don't you see that we have billions of people? We're here on behalf of the people. Are you going to stubbornly resist and become the enemy of the world? He waved his hand and glanced at the hundreds of thousands of people present. Are you against the recovery of spirit qi? Let me hear your voices. Yes. We're firmly against it. We want peace, not war. Now that mankind has occupied the top of the food chain, why should we recover spirit qi and let the beasts evolve and eat us? Is Kang Teichu asking for it? Go to hell, Kang Teichu. Tianqing School, go to hell. Kang Teichu wants to be a dictator. He's a war maniac. Inhumane, lunatic. Suddenly, hundreds of thousands of people around the valley shouted together. The crowd was agitated and their eyes were full of hatred. It was as if Jiang Tian wasn't a savior, but a demon dragging the earth into hell. Did you see that? No one supports Kang Te Chu and the recovery of spirit qi. Yu Jingtian smirked coldly and complacently. The onlookers not only shouted, but also took out their guns and crossbows and shot at the people of Tianqing School, throwing stones and so on. Although it wouldn't cause any harm to them, it was a great psychological blow to Huang Linger. She understood that the reason why the Preqin family had taken action was because they wanted to seize control of the earth with all kinds of grandiose reasons. She hated the Preqin family's pressure, but she understood. However, those ordinary people denounced Jiang Tian and called Jiang Tian a thug, a dictator and a lunatic. That was something she couldn't accept. He could use the spirit qi recovery seeds to treat Sister Qing'er's miscarriage, to cultivate and to reach the ultimate level. Then, he could take everyone directly to the ruins of deities and the central galaxy without caring about the lives of others. Jiang Tian was doing it for the evolution and strengthening of mankind and for the safety of Earth. Why was he hated so much? She slowly lowered her head, her beautiful eyes filled with tears. She was on the verge of crying as she muttered, "Humans, don't thank Jiang Taichu. My child, they've been used to peace for too long. They think that survival is a natural thing, not a great fortune." The true dragon patriarch's back was hunched and his voice was hoarse. He stroked the head of the old dragon dog in his arms and looked at Huang Linger. A trace of vicissitudes and sympathy appeared on his face as he sighed. They haven't seen the dangers of the universe and the cruelty of the competition between civilizations. So, heroes like our Lord are monsters in their eyes. Not everyone likes heroes, especially when the hero wants to drag everyone into the fight together. When others are sacrificed, too. Our Lord's methods have broken the bottom line of morality and values in the peaceful era. It's subversive. Thank you for your advice, Ancestral Patriarch Shenlong. Huang Linger trembled as if she had understood something. Then, she pulled out the Tianyuan wooden stick and slowly raised her head. She looked at Yu Jingtian and the others with firm and sharp eyes and said coldly, "I don't care how many people object or how much you hate me, but Tianqing School will recover the spirit qi. And I, Huang Linger, a disciple of Kang Te Chu of Tianqing School, will guard this spirit qi recovery array and will not retreat a step. Everyone, get out of here quickly."